Hello, hello, hello. My name is Jill Osborne. I am the president and founder of the Interstitial Cystitis Network. It is Sunday, November 18th. This is a live interstitial cystitis support group meeting for patients who might be struggling today. So what we're going to do today, now listen, my purpose with all of these meetings is to make you so strong, so knowledgeable, and so incredibly informed that you can walk into any doctor's office and take control of your medical care. You know, for many, many years, IC patients were minimized. We were told that it was all in our heads. We were told that there was no hope. We were told that there was no treatment. We were told a whole crap full of lies that simply today are not true. We now have treatments for IC. We understand what IC is. We certainly know that it is not all in your head. We certainly have put more than $100 million into research by the National Institutes of Health. And if anything will help you understand that, it is that. If this were all in our heads and we were making it up, they wouldn't have spent $100 million on it. Hello, Karen. It's very, very nice to see you. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Robin. Hello, we are simulcasting on Facebook and on YouTube. You know, I don't have them side by side on my computer because then my eyes would be going this way and my eyes would be going this way. I don't know, maybe I should. Hi, Karen says, you need to talk to me really bad. Okay, hon, well, listen, we can try to do it afterwards if you want. If you want to ask your question here, that's fine. Hello, Corrine from Belgium. I have never been to Belgium. I would love to go to Belgium. I would absolutely love to go to Belgium at some point in time. I was just thinking, I got to renew my passport. My passport expires in March. And for those of you in the United States, remember that you need to go get your real ID when you get your driver's license so that you can, in fact, get on a plane after 2020. Hello, Angie. It's nice to see you. Hello, Brenda. Hello, Dale. Hello, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. How are you? Hope life in Texas is treating you well. If you could please tell your friends on Facebook and or spread the word that we're doing this, that would be oh so awesome. That would be great, 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 great. I have several giveaways today. It's early Christmas here at the IC Network. So if you stick around several times throughout, we're going to be doing some giveaways. I've got them. I will show you what we're going to give away. We are going to give away a multi-right low acid vitamin. Not right now. We are going to give away an IC Chef Cookbook. And what did I do with my third giveaway? I do have a third giveaway. Where did I put it? Oh, I'm going to save that one. I'm going to save that one. All right. So, you know, you guys, you know, I do these support. Dale says, I love giveaways. I do too. Oh my God. I had so much fun on Wednesday when we did it. I know exactly how I'm going to do it. Here, I got my Post-its. We're going to do numbers. I got my markers because hello, I'm a color girl. I like playing with colors. Let me grab this real quick. All right. Today's good green day. I'm wearing green today, so I'm going to do green today. All right. So listen, I got a couple things I want to talk about before we start taking your questions. All right. Yeah. So I'm shedding. I want to talk about the holidays for a moment. Now, I know that in Canada, you've already had your Thanksgiving. So you've already gone through this, but I know in Europe, everybody else, we're all facing Christmas. And of course, in the United States, we have Thanksgiving. I want to talk about if we should travel. Should you travel when you're having an IC flare? So, and it doesn't matter what subtype. Doesn't matter if you're Hunner's lesions, bladder wall, pelvic floor, pudendal neuralgia, or central sensitization. It does not matter. When my IC started when I was 32 years old, 33 years old, I will tell you my first symptom, I was one of those patients where I had frequency, but my dominant symptom was pain. Oh my God, the pain was insane. But of course, we didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. My doctors didn't understand it. My family didn't understand it. all I knew was that pretty much every day I was in pain of some type. And, you know, gosh, how, I want to figure out the right way to say this. My family simply did not understand that I was crying on the inside. They didn't. And I wanted to make them happy because I didn't understand. I just wanted life to be normal, for God's sake. And so I will tell you that for many holidays and for many Christmases, I got in the car and I went with them, even though I was in agony. And my sister only lives, 20 miles away, right? I'd take 30 minutes to get to her house. I would be rolling in the car, and then I'd get there and I'd have to go up into her bedroom and lay down there, again, crying silently while everybody else is having Thanksgiving, and people quietly walk up the stairs and peek, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And it's like, "I'm fine." You know, I wasn't fine. It's like, I go back. It's okay. And I realized that number one, I had no business traveling when I was in that amount of pain, but I couldn't say no. It was very hard for me to say no. But I'd also, especially this one holiday, it showed me that not only was I having a terrible holiday, but they were so worried about me that they were having a terrible holiday. And they didn't understand that it was the drive itself that made it go from a normal IC day to an agonizing IC day, because there are some days when traveling hurts. And why does traveling hurt? Well, think about it. Here you've got, doesn't matter if you've got tight muscles or a tight bladder, but what are you doing? You're bouncing on the road. And taking a train is worse, because that's one of my worst flares ever, taking a train ride, a long train ride. So you're basically jiggling the equivalent of a broken leg. And that does not hurt when you that hurts. When you jiggle a bladder, that hurts. And so you might be reasonably okay, 5 on a scale of 10, 4 on a scale of 10 at home, but 10, 15 minutes in the car, you're already at a 7 because of all the vibration that's happening. And it really came, it really drove home for me when my mom, and you have to know, I love her dearly. She might even be watching. I don't think she is. I hope she's not. She mastered the concept of guilt over the holidays. She is a master at guilt. And so, she would kind of work me and say, well, we won't have fun. Maybe we'll stay home and we'll miss everybody else. And she was really the master of guilt. And a couple of times, well, many, many times I fell for it, including once I drove 2.5 hours to my brother's house and I was driving in agony, and we get there and they want to go out to dinner. And the last thing I'm going to do is eat. I'm not going to eat on a trip like that, because I don't know what it's going to do to my IC. I already know it's terrible and I need to get home. So, it was always drive to my brother's house, go out to a restaurant, go back to his house for 30 minutes, and then bam, get in the car and come back home. Well, I would drive, we'd go to the restaurant. I couldn't eat anything at the restaurant. We'd come back home. And we go back to his house. I drive home, again, crying on the inside, just desperate to be home, right? Desperate to be home. And then finally, one day I just said, I'm done. I'm done. And it was before Thanksgiving. And it was that morning. And I was having a terrible day. And, my mom started the guilt, right? Come on, hon, we need you to go. We need you to come. And I just said, no, I'm not going. I'm done. I'm not going. I hurt too much. The best thing for me to do is to stay home. I am staying home. And if you want to bring something back for me, that's great. If you don't want to bring anything back for me, that's fine too. And I just put my foot down. I'm staying home. And, actually it wasn't Thanksgiving. It was Christmas. It's Christmas dinner. And I remember that because so they, gave me the look, well, we really would like you to come. Are you sure you're not going to come? Yada, 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 yada. It's like, no. And by this time I've got my Afghan, I got my heating pad, I got my slippers on, I got all my comfortable clothes. And finally they get in the car and they drive off. And of course I burst into tears. I didn't want to miss Christmas. I didn't want to miss Christmas. Of course I cried. I missed a family wedding in Southern California where I was supposed to be speaking at the wedding. And afterwards they came back and said, thank God you weren't there because the road was so terrible. We were hurting. Right. Okay. So anyway, I let them go. I cried for a good 5 or 10 minutes. And then you know what? I went and got a hot cup of something bladder friendly. I went and turned a long movie on. I went and got my heating pad and I laid down and oh my God, it was the right thing to do. It felt, holidays come and go, but there comes a point where you have to make a clear decision or statement that this activity will hurt you more and that it is okay for you to stay home. Because I promise you, there will be other holidays when you feel better. When you feel better, there will be. But there are moments when you really do have to say, I cannot do this today. Don't say I don't want to do it, because you want to do it. Just say, my body will not let me do this today. So, and I kind of have a rule here about committing to stuff. I mean, at least I'm better about it now because I'm so much better. But back then, people would say, you going to come to the holidays? And my answer is, well, I'm going to try. I'd like to be there, but I won't know until that day. And so please don't take it personally if I don't come, because I have to listen to my body. And I wouldn't make my decision until I woke up that morning. I tried to take all the emotion out of it. I didn't want to guilt myself into it. It was just like, all right, how am I feeling that morning? If my pain is greater than a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm staying home. I'm staying home. Gonna let the family go. Now that's different for me because I'm single. And some of you may be married and have children. And so you've got yet another level of guilt because you don't want to disappoint your family. I will say that when you're struggling with IC, you have to understand that traveling is challenging. This is not the time for you to take an 8-hour car ride to grandma's house when you're just newly diagnosed and struggling with symptoms. If you can, bring the holidays to your house. Have a potluck so you don't have to cook everything. If you need to split off for one holiday and everybody else goes somewhere and your family stays home, make a new tradition, make a fun tradition. Do something different with it, I mean, that movie A Christmas Story where at the end, the dogs eat their turkey, so they got to go to the Chinese restaurant. And it's a great memory. It was a great memory, not only for those characters, but for everybody who's ever watched that movie, because you got the guy come out with the big hatchet cutting the neck of the duck that they eventually ate it. You can make your own holidays. You don't necessarily have to do your family holidays. There comes a time when you need to put your health first. Now, the other thing about the holidays is even if you go, what can you eat? And it's important that, you're kind of in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because you kind of want to call and say, all right, what are you cooking? Right? Because you want to know if you can eat it. And let's just say they're going to do, let's just say that they go with a big Italian pasta meal, right? Which some families do. And you know that you're not going to be able to eat tomato sauce and a tomato-based pasta. So what I would suggest is you bring an alternative, bring a carbonara pasta, bring a white sauce pasta, something like that. There are times when you just have to bring your own stuff. You can bring what you need to bring to support the family meal, but when it comes to you eating, bring your own stuff so that you don't have to worry about that. you know. And also what I don't want you to do is try to appease others by eating it, especially if you've got a grandma like I did, who was like, would like watch every bite. Honey, don't you like what I made? Okay, you're not eating it. Come on, don't you like what I made? And it's like, yeah, Grandma, I love what you made, but right now my bladder is not going to take it. So I'm going to pass this time, but hopefully I'll be able to enjoy it again. So don't get guilted into eating something that you know is going to trigger you. If it's bad, like for me, what would trigger me is chocolate. So I'm not going to do chocolate. You can pay me to eat chocolate. You can pay me to eat oatmeal. But on the other hand, you better make sure that you stock up on, for those of you who are IC subtype 1, subtype 2, seriously, come on, stock up on your pre-leaf. Bring your pre-leaf with you. You can get this at Walgreens. You can get this at CVS. Bring something that is an acid reducer that you can eat before your meal and or before a glass of wine, right? If you're going to try to have a glass of wine. And let's talk about wine for a moment, because, you know, if you had a wound on your hand and you poured alcohol on it, what would happen to that wound? Well, it would hurt. 95% of IC patients report that drinking alcohol irritates them. But there are workarounds. There are workarounds. So when it comes to wine, you need to do a lower acid wine. So we don't want you to do a Riesling. We don't want you to do a sharp white wine, or we don't want you to do my brain isn't working. I have an article on this on our website. I need you to stick to lower acid wines. Like for a red wine, do a Merlot. For a white wine, do a Chardonnay. Then what I want you to do is I want you to serve it on ice. Serve it on ice so that you let the ice slowly dissolve it. Don't drink more than a half a glass. You can fill it up over and over again. You can put sparkling water in it to try to dilute some of the alcohol. Again, if you're having absolutely wicked flare, don't even do that. Just do sparkling water. Just do sparkling water. That'll work just fine. The other alcohol that is remarkably irritating for an IC bladder is champagne. So I remember once I flared just having a sip of champagne, just literally a little taste at a store. And oh my God, an hour later, my bladder was screaming. Champagne can be very, very high in acid. So if somebody is suggesting that you toast with champagne, you know, go ahead and toast with it, but just don't drink it. Tiny bit, maybe sparkling water, or better yet, do a sparkling apple cider, an organic sparkling apple cider instead, because that way at least you'll still have something that's kind of celebratory, but it's not alcohol. And with the sparkling apple cider, you can still use something like pre-leaf that will help take some of the acid out of that sparkling apple cider. Alrighty. To conclude here on my discussion on holidays, I think you need to give yourself permission to stay home if you're having a bad flare. That's really when I gave myself permission to say no. That's when my holidays got so much better, because I wasn't forcing myself anymore, and I could use pain medicine when I needed to use it. And you know, it's amazing when you actually do that once or twice, your family actually goes, "Oh, wow, maybe you really do have something going on." And they start coming, and they can come to you. You can have a Christmas Eve with them. You can have a New Year's Eve with them, a New Year's Day with them. There are ways. Invite them into your home if you cannot go to their home. All righty. Then when it comes to food, I've got a lot of recipes over on the IC Diet Project, icdietproject.com. If you haven't seen that, that is our big diet and nutrition website that we've been doing for about 6-7 years, that features the three key authors of the IC Diet. Julie Bauer, author of Confident Choices. If you've never met Julie Bauer, she is the one who wrote this book. She's the first registered dietitian who actually took an interest in IC and started writing a diet for IC because she has IC. She's a good friend of mine. The other participant in the IC Diet Project is, in fact, the author of this, Beverly Lauman, A Taste of the Good Life. I'm very excited to tell you that we are going to have her next book soon. She's finally, after a decade, rewriting this. She's been very busy helping her husband's business. And then I am the third writer of the IC Diet Project. So you can go over there too. Now let's start with our first giveaway. What do you say? What do you say? So since we've been talking about food, food, why don't we make this our first giveaway, right? The odds are good, people, because there's only 36 people watching right now. And so that's fine. All right. So I'm going to write down a number between 1 and 100. And whoever gets it first, so I've written it down. Whoever gets it first is going to get a free copy of the IC cookbook just in time for the holidays. All righty? So you can vote right now, 1 to 100. Let's see who gets it. Hi, Regina. Hi, Janice. Hi, Christine. Hi, Henriette. Harriet, sorry. Hi, Michelle. Nobody yet. Nobody yet. One person is very close. One person is very, very close. One person is hold on. One person is 6 off. Not yet, but some of you are so close. Oh my God, you're so close. Feel free to revote. You can redo numbers. That's okay. Uh-oh, one person's 2 away. Okay, we're going to end this. We're going to end this in 30 seconds, and then whoever's closest is going to get it. So I'm watching my clock. Judy, you can't see anyone. You're guessing a number between 1 and 99 because, or 1 and 100 because you're going to, whoever gets a number is going to get an IC Chef cookbook just in time for the holidays. Oh, you guys, boy, I picked a good number. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Oh, we have a winner. We have a winner, Robin Silversmith. Robin Silversmith, my dear, you have won the IC Chef Cookbook. So, Robin, I need you to send me an email. Hold on, I got to write your name down. So we have 3 giveaways today. So keep watching because we have more giveaways. But Robin, if you're not my Facebook friend, you guys, you're all welcome to become my Facebook friend. It's Jill Heidi Osborne. But hold on, let me give you the email address. If I can find it in here. Here it is. There's the email address, icnetwork@mac.com. And for anybody here who's here, I always give away freebies. They are our diet card and our restroom access card. If you send me your snail mail address to icnetwork@mac.com, I would be more than happy to send you our freebies. All righty? All right, let's, Dale, this is, Dale, you're terrible in a good way, All right, let's go back and do some of your questions if I can get there. Hold on. Hey guys, I know I missed some questions. We've had 110 questions. And Facebook gets really weird on me and won't let me re-scroll sometimes. And so please re-ask your question. Please re-ask your question. Regina asks, where can I find the best information about B vitamins to take? Right on our website. And actually, the book that actually has the best discussion of vitamins is actually A Taste of the Good Life. And they have she has an appendix here that not only reviews the vitamins, but gives you, here it is right here. So it will review the vitamins, but then also give you the foods that you can eat that are bladder friendly to give you that vitamin. So for an example, a vitamin C obviously is one of the vitamins that we IC patients struggle with. So what's a good bladder friendly source of vitamin C? Let's see what she says. Hold on. Green bell peppers, potatoes, green leafy vegetables like cabbage, spinach, and lettuce. And of course, remember, you can also take an ester C. There's two different forms of vitamin C. One is called ascorbic acid, the acid of which makes it very irritating. But then there's also calcium ascorbate. Is that right? Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, I'm right. Calcium ascorbate is the low acid version of vitamin C. And so one of the best books, I think, for a discussion of vitamins is A Taste of the Good Life. Okay. All the other and then B6. I'm sorry, Regina, getting back to your question. B6 is the other vitamin that has been reported by many patients to be more irritating. We don't really know why. But the way to get B6 is to eat fish, eat legumes like dried peas and beans and lentils, and whole grain bread. So those are more bladder friendly forms of B6. Many IC patients struggle taking a B complex because of the B6. If you're going to take, if you need a B complex, do the Desert Harvest Aloe B complex without B6. I don't know if I have it. Let me look. So Desert Harvest Aloe is one of the best companies that we've worked with for a very, very long time. And the reason why is because they truly listen to IC patients. And so not only do they make aloe, but they make Desert Harvest Aloe with quercetin or Desert Harvest Aloe with glucosamine and chondroitin. They also make a Desert Harvest Aloe B complex without B6. And so that might be an option for you to try, hon. That might work well for you. Amber says she was just diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia, and it's making you very ill, but you're terrified that iron supplements are going to worsen my IC symptoms. Hun, you don't need to worry about that. It's actually pretty rare that iron irritates the bladder. I know this because my mom has IC and she's also anemic, and we have gone through many, many anemia treatments with her. Her bladder's never been irritated by any of her anemia treatment. She has gotten infusions, iron infusions, and she has taken iron pills. What iron can do is irritate your stomach, but it usually doesn't irritate your bladder. But with the supplement that you get, just look at the ingredients. Just make sure there's nothing else in it that has the potential of being irritating. And also, too, you could potentially have an iron infusion instead. It takes like an hour to do. It's like 30 minutes to do, 30 minutes to recover from. And when I mean recover, there's no recovery. You just sit there and that's all. Bring a book. So you could ask for an iron infusion and see if that would make a difference too. And that might even be a little bit less irritating to your bladder. If anybody else in here has taken iron and it's flared their bladder, please tell us. I don't have any direct stories of iron irritating the bladder off of the top of my head. Okay. Judy, do you have to sign in somewhere? No. To do this? No, not at all. Rosie asks, is raspberry tea a trigger? Yes or no? It depends on what else is in it. If there's rose hips in it, then yes, it's going to be a trigger. You have to be careful. Herbal blends are really tricky. They're really, really tricky because if it's got rose hips in it, if it's got a couple of other ingredients in it, like citrus peel, lemon peel, it might be a little bit more acidic. Sometimes it's better just to do a plain, this is a rooibos tea. This is a pumpkin spice rooibos tea that we sell. It's just rooibos and little tiny bit of pumpkin, I mean, it's just perfect. In fact, I've barely drunk anything today. I need to drink while we're doing this. Rosie says vitamin C though. If it says it's got added vitamin C in it, then I would pass. I would not do that. Regina says you're B deficient. You can take B12, but not the others. The only other one that's known to irritate the bladder is B6. None of the other B vitamins are known to irritate the bladder at all. And I'm saying that with 25 years of experience. Regina. I mean, but again, listen, whoops, you can get this book, right? Taste the Good Life. Go to the appendix that talks about nutrients and vitamins, and she gives you options. So for B1, you can get that from lean pork, potatoes, dried peas, and beans. B2, you can get it from eggs, lean meat, milk. B12 is fine. You shouldn't have any problems with that. Okay, so it would be astonishingly rare for somebody. It would like be the only person. Not that I don't believe you, because listen, I know I see patients. We are wickedly sensitive to stuff, so it is certainly possible. It'd be very rare for you to be for anybody to be sensitive to anything other than B6 in the B vitamin family. Regina said B6 put her in bed. Yeah. You know, it's funny. We don't necessarily understand the mechanism of action of why, but it certainly does. B6 is well known to be the irritant. Amber says she may have to do the transfusions if the supplements don't work, but diet isn't cutting it. Yeah, hon, it didn't cut it for my mom too. You know, let me just kind of offer a little bit of context here. So you guys, anemia happens when you're bleeding somewhere. Okay, so if you're bleeding from your bladder, if you have very, very long periods, if you're a woman, if you're bleeding for your stomach or your bowel, you can become anemic. And when you become anemic, you become very weak, very pale, no energy. I mean, you feel very, very ill. You are, and it's not you feel, you are very, very ill. In my mother's case, what was so interesting is when they went in and they did an endoscopy to look at her stomach, and her stomach was fine. And she had no stomach. She's got an iron stomach. She could eat anything. It's crazy. I do not have an iron stomach. She has an iron stomach. But when they went to her undum, which is, you've got your stomach, and then underneath your stomach is a little pocket that then goes to your small intestine. Her undum was filled with what looked like varicose veins, and those were bleeding. And so they had to go in 3 or 4 times over a period of a couple of years and just cauterize them. And we asked them, why would those be bleeding? And there were 2 theories. Number one, my mother was absolutely addicted to cough drops. She would eat a pack of menthol cough drops a day. She just did. She got she has dry mouth, and that's just what she did. And we kept telling her, stop it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And it turns out that high levels of menthol have been triggered with gastrointestinal bleeding. But also in people who have something like Sjogren's syndrome, lupus, an autoimmune component, I also remember the doctor talking about that sometimes you can get these little broken blood vessels because of that. Now, in her case, I don't believe that that's true because she is not anemic anymore because she's no longer doing cough drops. Once we got her off the cough drops, it took about a year for things to calm down, but we haven't been doing infusions as of 9 months ago. And we were doing infusions every 6 weeks for 3 years. So, all right, let's keep going. Let me go down to YouTube here. Lisa says she's taking Desert Harvest Aloe for a week, 3 times a day, and you doubled it today, and you're in. Are you saying that you doubled it today and it caused you awful pain, or did you double it because you are in awful pain? I'm looking at the questions on YouTube at the moment. So Facebook, hold tight. We got 46 people on Facebook, guys. Let me just introduce myself again. My name is Jill Osborne. I'm the president and founder of the Interstitial Cystitis Network. Been an IC support group leader for 25 years. The IC Network is the largest IC support group in the world. We work with about 200,000 patients a month through our website. Alrighty. If you're wondering what my qualifications are, I have 3 college degrees. I have a degree in chemistry, a degree in drug development, pharmacology, and a master's degree in psychology because I could not abide the animal research and drug research. I love animals. Couldn't do it. Walked away. Was on my way to a PhD in psychology when my IC struck. Ironically, the IC Network was my PhD doctoral dissertation, which I could not finish because I could not get in the car to go to school. But hey, you know what? It worked because 25 years later, we're #1 on the web for really good IC information. Who knew that little student project would become something that has helped millions of IC patients over the years. So I'm here today doing a support group meeting. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them in your comment area. We are simulcasting on Facebook and YouTube. Please don't take it personally if I don't get to your question because sometimes they feed very, very quickly. You are always welcome to reach out to me at this address, icnetwork@mac.com. If you have questions privately, if I can do it, you're also welcome to call the IC Network. We are the only IC support group that actually answers the phone. I'm very proud of that. Let me give you that number here. Hold on a sec. I have lots of slides. I see subtypes, yada, 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 yada. Here it is. All right. So please come on over to our website, ic-network.com. Our phone number is 1-800-928-7496. I will tell you that our patient assistance lines, we take phone calls really from about 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but we only work with 1 patient or 2 patients at a time. So if you get our service, just leave your name and number, and I will call you back when I can. 1-800-928-7496. And there are times when it might take me a day or longer to call back, like last week, because we had the fires. We still have, looking at the smoke, it's crazy. All right. All right. So Lisa, you doubled it. Okay. So you doubled your desert harvest aloe and it caused you pain. I don't like it when people do that. I think it's a real big mistake if you've never taken a supplement before, to take the full strength dose on the first day or to go to any great extremes. More is not better from a drug development standpoint. This is all about finding the amount of medication that will work for your body. And so what I generally say to patients is take 1 capsule, make sure your body likes it. Do 1 a day for a week. See if you like it. If you like that, you can go to 2 a day for a week. If you like that, you can go to 3 a day for a week. And at least for Cysto Protect or Cysto Renew, which are the other big supplements, their recommended dose is 4 a day. With Desert Harvest Aloe, their recommended dose is 6 a day, 3 in the morning, 3 in the evening. I will tell you, though, that I am one of those patients where I can only do low doses. When I went to 2 a day for Cysto Protect, it gave me a loose bowel. I do not like having loose bowel. So when I take Cysto Protect, I take 1. I don't take 4. I take 1. So Lisa, my guess is you just massively you introduced a lot of extraneous chemicals, potentially, or you just overwhelmed your bladder in some way. I don't know if you ate anything else, if something else could have triggered it. That's certainly a possibility. But certainly back down, and hopefully the pain should calm down. Now, this is interesting. She also says that when you're in a lot of pain, your frequency goes down. Is that common? You know what? I don't know the physiological reason why that would be happening, but I can relate to that. I think I can relate to that. I think, you know, remember when we've in past lectures, especially in the last month, we've been talking about this new book called When It Hurts Down There. And it's a fabulous new book that we're going to be selling. We're putting in a print order on Monday. It talks about where pain goes. So pain goes from your bladder to your spinal cord, from your spinal cord to your lower brain, then to your midbrain, and then to your upper brain, right? But here at the midbrain, there's something called a spinal gate. And the spinal gate only sends the most important pain messages through. So if you stepped on a nail one day, your foot's going to hurt for a couple of days. But let's say you fall and break your leg 3 days later, you're not going to feel your nail at all. You're going to feel the broken leg. That's the spinal gate in action. It only lets the most important pain message through. So that may be kind of what's happening. Is it may be that the pain is so dominating your brain that you're just not noticing or feeling some of that frequency as much as you were. I don't know if I can say that I've ever experienced that myself, but it makes sense. The Meltdown author on YouTube says you've had unbearable frequency. Any suggestions? All right, so let's talk about that for a moment. So here's a 3D version, side version of your bladder. Okay, so up at the top, you have a layer of mucus. Then you have a layer of 4 to 5 cells that we call the urothelium. And then underneath that, you've got blood vessels and nerves. Now, let me give you the bladder is such a cool organ. I never thought I'd be saying this 30 years ago, but then I never thought I'd be talking about the bladder as a career. But anyway, you know, it is what it is. But what makes the bladder, there's so many interesting things about the bladder. Number one, it's the only organ in the human body to hold toxic waste. So how can the body hold ammonia and urea and all sorts of other irritants that our body's trying to eliminate? How can our bladder hold ammonia for hours at a time and not get damaged? And the answer is this protective coating that's in turquoise. You have a barrier. Your bladder is like your mouth. It is a hollow organ covered with mucus, right? And it's this mucus that it acts as a barrier, right? So it's preventing the toxins and urine from reaching here. Now, hon, the nerve that controls frequency is called the alpha afferent nerve. The bladder only has 2 nerve groups. It's got the alpha afferent nerve that control frequency, urgency, and it's got the C fiber, which controls pain. So in your case, your alpha afferent nerve is being tremendously irritated, and that's what's driving your frequency. So the likely cause is this, that somehow the irritants in your urine are reaching this layer of cells and this layer of cells. So one of the reasons why that can happen is from acid erosion. I mean, if you drink massive amounts of coffee, well, your bladder was designed tens of thousands of years ago. We didn't have coffee back then. Your bladder is not necessarily designed to defend itself from massive levels of acid all day, every day. Chemotherapy does exactly the same thing. The irritants in chemo are known to irritate and break through this mucus and get down here. But the other thing that can happen is menopause. It turns out this layer of mucus is estrogen dependent. So when you're young and you have lots and lots of estrogen, you've got lots and lots of mucus. When you're older, you have much less estrogen and much less mucus. So what that means then, again, is the irritants are potentially able to get through here, but so is bacteria. Bacteria is also capable now of reaching these cells. I don't know why that's doing that. There you go. So when you don't have as much mucus, you also have a nice pathway for bacteria to actually reach these cells and infect those cells. So I think you need to do a couple of things. The first thing, in my opinion, you need to do is you need to do an azo test strip. Let's test your urine. And let's see if you've got any signs of infection. If you have a double positive urine test, then you have infection. You need to call the doctor on Monday, and you need to go have your urine tested. Let me see if there's a picture of it in here. I actually had to give my last one to my 96-year-old dad. Let's see. I need to go buy some more myself. Let's see if I can find the picture of it. Here we go. Okay, so look, this is the dipstick. You just hold it between your legs and pee on it. And it's got two test pads. The top one is for leukocytes. The bottom one is for nitrites. Nitrites are only produced by bacteria. If you have pink nitrites, if this turns pink or red, girl, you got infection. You got to get yourself to your doctor, period. End of story. There's no other way to treat it. We don't want your infection to progress to a kidney infection. I once had an infection that I thought was a flare, and I didn't go to the doctor for 6 weeks. And oh my God, but I literally walked into my doctor's office bawling my eyes out. And I was their support group leader. It was over here at Kaiser in Santa Rosa. And the nurse saw me crying and pulled me right in and took me right into her office. And she goes, Jill, you're having bladder spasms because you have a bladder infection. So that would be number one. Rule that out. And then if you don't have infection, then we really have to look at what you're eating. Are you eating something? Are you provoking your bladder in some way? She said, so here, so, and the meltdown author, I apologize. I don't know if you're a man or a woman. So I'm just going to say that you're a woman. Please don't take it the wrong way. So you've been saying, I've been trying to follow the diet for many months now, have been soda and caffeine free for years. It is an irritant. Azo strips are always negative. I'm scared to keep taking Azo pills with the dye. That is true. Azo is not meant to be used for the long term. So if you look at the American Urology Association guidelines for IC, which are excellent if you've never seen them before, the American Urology Association for guidelines for IC was released in 2011. One of the things they say is if you're getting worse, if you're not responding to treatment and getting worse, it's time to revisit the diagnosis. Let's make sure we know what we're treating here. And so I think that you would be a good candidate for next generation urine testing, hon, just to see if we could rule out once and for all if you have perhaps a chronic infection. And that's pretty much what the AUA says, is if you're not getting better, if you're getting worse, and in my opinion, if you're scared, if you're frightened, if your quality of life is diminishing, then let's take a step back for a moment and let's make sure we know what we're treating. Could you have chronic infection? And if you go to bladderhealth.org, you can see how urologists are using this. What they do is instead of growing it out on a round agar plate, they're actually scanning for DNA. And this test will find all the good bacteria, all the bad bacteria, and any fungus. Because we also now know that candida yeast infections can happen in the bladder, and they're often found in patients having flares. So that would be one thing I would do. And then the second thing I would really want to know is what's the health of your pelvic floor? Are your pelvic floor muscles spasming? Are your pelvic floor muscles tight? On our website, I have a video, the 5 subtypes of IC. I really want you to watch that video. Although I'll probably go over them today. Be very curious to try to subtype you to see if we can figure out perhaps you're not the subtype you think it is. Yeah, you might be a different variant. Kristen says, my pelvic floor is in spasms. I cannot urinate or pass a BM, and I can feel a BM there. How can I get my pelvic floor to relax? Take a hot shower, hun. Hot shower, hot bath. At the AUA meeting, they said hot shower twice a day. Try to get those muscles to relax at all. And do you have a muscle relaxant? Flexeril, baclofen. Listen, hon, if you can't pay, if you can't have a bowel movement, that's a medical emergency. You need to go to urgent care, or you need to call your doctor and see what they can do to help. As Lisa says here, vaginal Valium suppositories, that might be reasonable. But if you are unable to pee on your own, if you're unable to have a bowel movement on your own, then we need to try to, that's a crisis. We need to get to it. I've talked about this before, though. And you know what, guys? Seriously, we're all IC patients. I have no shame. I'm willing to talk about anything at this point in time. There's something that happens called packing. I don't know if you know what that means. What that means is little hard stools are accumulating right above the rectum and in the rectum. And it's really irritating. And it's irritating because they're small and hard and you can't necessarily push them out. And then they're collecting and they're getting bigger and bigger. And then the nerves in your rectum are getting irritated. That's when you whip out a fleet enema, my friend. You just do a quick enema that'll wash it out in 20 minutes. Or you get a glove and your finger and you do what you need to do to get that out of there. So if you got some packing going on, you might want to try an enema, see if that might help a little bit. But again, hon, I really think if you've been unable to have a bowel movement for a couple of days, that's a medical emergency. And I think you need to call your doctor and get in for help. And I'm so, so sorry, hon. I'm so sorry. Vaginal Valium suppositories, muscle relaxants. Let's see what those could do. I'm a little bit reluctant to say this, but because it's not going to work over the long term. But what physical therapists tend to say, and I've demonstrated this before, is one way to get your pelvic floor muscles to relax is to squat down. Prayer pose. That when you squat down like this, you put your pelvic floor muscles, they're manipulated to be where they're supposed to be at the tension they're supposed to be. And so if you're ever walking around and you start, or you're at the bank waiting in line and you start seeing your pelvic floor muscles spasming, drop your keys and just come down here, pick them up and just, just like look at your cell phone just for like 20, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. That's another way to try to get your pelvic floor back into the right spot. A book that I strongly recommend is Isa Herrera's Ending Female Pelvic Pain, or Ending Female Pain. And for the men out there, she has the same book, but written for men, called Ending Male Pelvic Pain. And you know what? Let's just take a moment here and let's just see if she's got anything in here about this is a shot in the dark here. I'm just curious if she has a section in here on what you do in a crisis. Whatever you do, don't do Kegel exercises. Let's look in this one, Heal Pelvic Pain by Amy Stein. Just don't know what spasms, squats, spasms. Let's see if we can. Soothing the pelvic floor. Let's see what she says. Techniques for soothing the pelvic floor. Okay, let's try this. So she says, try laying down on your back and elevating your pelvis with pillows or a wedge. Especially if you have the kind of job that keeps you on your feet all day, this will help improve your circulation and reverse blood flow away from your pelvic area where it's probably been congested all day. While you're there, give yourself what's called an effleurage massage. Put some oil or lotion on your fingertips or palms and gently stroke your abdomen and pelvic region. This massage warms and relaxes the muscles and helps to improve blood flow. For even more relaxing warmth, use hot water bottle or heating pad. Place the bottle or pad right on your abdomen to help relax your bladder or bowel. Or laying on your stomach, place the bottle or pad on your tailbone, or back right on top of any pelvic pain you may be suffering. Oh, if you suffer from any sort of bladder urgency, frequency pain, or if you're experiencing constipation, diarrhea, or IBS, applying heat in this way can calm the gut and relax the muscles as well. You can do this warmth therapy as often as you like throughout the day, but do not place a heating pad on your belly if you're pregnant or if you have any condition which is contraindicated. She says, suggesting a contrast bath. I'll let you read about that. All right, so it seems like it's all about heat, my friend. It's all about heat. We have this is the big heating pad that the IC Network sells. Look at this sucker. And it's heavy. It's like 3 pounds. And I know I microwave it I sleep with it every night. I have 3 or 4 of these actually. The heat lasts about 30 minutes in these because it's so heavy. And so anytime I'm starting to feel anything weird, I'll grab my heating pad and sit down for a good 30 minutes. Can you have an infection that does not show up on a typical urine test? Absolutely. Absolutely. A typical urine test, urinalysis will only grow out 1% of the potential bacteria in your bladder. This test, next generation DNA testing, will grow it all out. It doesn't grow it out. It will identify them all. So if you're one of those patients where you think you got chronic UTI, the way to answer that question is with this test, next generation DNA urine testing. And what's really cool is it's really cheap. Now, 5 years ago, this was thousands of dollars to do. Today, it's $199. It's amazing. And so not only will this identify good bacteria and bad bacteria, but again, it will also determine if you happen to have a candida infection. And I was working with a patient on Thursday, a wicked candida infection. She had candida everywhere, internally, externally, in her bladder, in her vagina, on her vulva. And this test is what confirmed that. And again, that's our own National Institutes of Health who made that discovery that some patients having flares have candida overgrowth. She was a huge candy eater. That was the problem. Okay, and again, guys, the screen is... Oh, Facebook annoys me because it won't let me scroll back. Dang it. Somebody asked something about what did I think of a doctor in Florida? Can you give his name again? That went by so quick I couldn't follow it. I'm sorry. Leanne, these are all always recorded, and so you will be able to watch it again. Can you post the picture of the bladder you just showed us? We have the biggest archive of bladder pictures on our website, people. We've got dozens of pictures of IC bladders. But here's a typical IC subtype 2 bladder wall injury, bladder wall driven. As you can see, what we see here are lots of red spots and dots. We call these petechial hemorrhages or glomerations, and this is a sign of a bladder that has been injured in some way. Sometimes the test itself can cause this, though, too. Diana, can you please post his name again? That went by so quick, I couldn't do it. Quack. Sophie, you're right. And it's pretty hard to understand IC unless you've had it yourself. We've all been there. Rebecca says she's bedridden because of chronic UTI and all of your deficiencies. You must get on top of it. So, girl, yeah, and the way you're going to get on top of it, seriously, is with this. You got to do this. If you've got chronic infection, this is what's going to identify it. So go over to bladderhealth.org and watch those urologist videos, hon. That's what's going to help you figure it out. Denise says, does it take several installation treatments to feel some improvement? It depends upon what installation they're doing, Denise. If it's heparin lidocaine or Elmeron lidocaine, yeah, it might take a couple. Although generally you would feel better immediately afterwards, but it might only last for 4 or 5 hours. But every time you do it, it should get better and better and better. Good night, Kareen. Rebecca says, azo is amazing for UTI chronic flares. Yeah, it can be, but it's not meant to be used over long periods of times, my friend. This is azo pills. This is over-the-counter pyridium. And it can be helpful. It can be helpful, but you're not supposed to take it. I think you're not supposed to take it longer than 3 or 4 days at a time. I know I took it for 3 months because nobody told me otherwise. But it has some issues. It can cause some other issues you got to be careful of. Lisa, can pyridium cause a false positive on azo tests? Probably. But I don't know for sure. If you have if it's positive and you're not sure, then your next step is a typical urinalysis or next gen. Sherry says she's on pyridium, 200 milligrams a day, twice daily per doctor. She insists it's totally safe. Well, you know, we can't, it is not, it would be completely inappropriate for me to what's the right word? I don't want to say your doctor's wrong. What I would just say is do some more research. Why don't you Google long-term pyridium use safety and see what comes up? Betsa, it's bladderhealth.org. Bladderhealth.org. Cindy said, your quality of life was 0 until she went on Cystitis. Changed your life. I suffer mostly from pelvic floor issues. So what the Cystitis has done is it's coating your bladder. So it's protecting your bladder wall. And so now that your bladder wall is protected, your issue is really pelvic floor. So hopefully you're working with a pelvic floor physical therapist. Amber said when she was at her worst and retaining severely, she had to pee in a hot bath, but it was the only way. I was desperate. Yeah, you know, actually, that's something that they sometimes suggest for people having inflammation for installations is to go home and pee in a hot bathtub. That's not, I don't think it's gross. You know, you got to do what you got to do. Terry says, Flexeril relaxes your throat muscle and stirs your GERD up. I hate that. Terry, maybe you're taking a little bit too much Flexeril. When I take Flexeril, I only take 1/4 of a pill. I literally do not take a half a pill or a whole pill. I take 1/4 of a pill. Hi, Amy. Does IC cause sufferers struggle with being able to be regular, if you will? I think so. Well, okay. So again, it's all about the subtypes, right? So is a Hunter's lesion going to make it hard for you to have a bowel movement? No. Is a bladder wall injury going to make it hard for you to have a bowel movement? No. Is pelvic floor dysfunction going to make it difficult for you to have a bowel movement? Hell yeah. Hell yes. But you also have to understand that your muscles get tight to protect you from pain, right? And so when your bladder's screaming, your muscles are going to get tight. And then because your muscles are tight, it's going to be hard for you to relax enough to have a bowel movement. And so we need to try to control the pain, to try to reduce the muscle tension, and or if you've got pelvic floor injury, we got to work with that injury. And we got to do the physical therapy to get those muscles nice and relaxed. Let me go to YouTube here for a moment. Hello, YouTube. Just looking at your questions, guys. Just give me a moment. So Lisa had the next gen test, and it found that she had a strep infection. And they put her on an antibiotic for that strep, and 3 to 5 days later, she had no pain. So Lisa, so at 3 to 5 days on Levaquin, no pain, your symptoms reduced, but after you were done with the antibiotics, your symptoms returned. Girl, you got to do another one of these. Do another one of these, and let's see if it was able to reduce that strep. Maybe it was not the right antibiotic to kill that strep infection. And Lisa says, but Cysto Protect, no noticeable results. Well, girl, hun, listen, Cysto Protect's a coating, right? So the coating is going to calm and soothe your bladder. But the reality here is you had a positive strep test. And when you took antibiotics for 3 to 5 days, it was good. But when you went off the antibiotics, it came back. So I really have to wonder if you indeed still have that strep. And so in my opinion, I think you need to do this again. Brenda says, Alabama watching. Hello, Alabama. I have a lot of pain in my straddle and feels like everything is trying to come out, especially when I pee. So for your straddle, what you're saying is it this part? Is it at the top of the legs, or is it in your crotch area? I would be very curious to know the answer to that. But when you pee, if it feels like everything is coming out when you're peeing, girl, you got some prolapse going on. You've got pelvic floor dysfunction, and I can demonstrate this for you. Anytime a woman feels like something's falling out of them, we are going to be thinking about a prolapse situation. So here's your pelvic floor, right? So your pelvic floor muscles are they go from side to side, they go from front to back, and they go from low to high, right? And your pelvis, so your pelvic floor muscles are kind of like a woven basket. What's their job? Their job is to hold your organs in place. So here's your bladder. You can pretend there's a second ball, that's your vagina, okay? So if your muscles are healthy, they're holding your bladder in place. And again, one of the things to know about the pelvic floor is it's also the only major muscle group that directly influences an essential bodily process, because it allows urine out, it allows poop out, it allows a penis in if you're a girl or a guy. All right. So if your pelvic floor is normal, then you're going to see a little gap at the bottom that basically shows that things can move in and out, right? I didn't say that right. I have to think about how to say that. Okay. So anyway, here's your pelvic floor. Here's your bladder. If your muscles are weak, look what's happens. Your bladder starts to fall where it's not supposed to fall, and your uterus and/or falls. That is the equivalent. That is a prolapse. And so it's very, very important that you get to a physical therapist right away, Brenda, because that is a huge symptom that if you catch it early, you might be able to stop it with physical therapy. What physical therapy will do is get these muscles normal and tight again and put that bladder up in the right spot. If you ignore it, you allow your muscles to weaken. And then unfortunately, what's going to happen is you're going to get to the point where physical therapy can't fix it. And you might need to use a pessary or have surgery to get it correct. So anytime you feel like something's falling out of you, or anytime you feel like something is being pushed up inside of you, or if you feel a pulling sensation or a tugging sensation, that points directly to your pelvic floor muscles. So you, my dear, need to have a pelvic floor physical assessment. And it's very, very important that you tell them that you feel like something is falling out of you when you try to have a bowel movement or when you try to urinate. That is huge. And that is fixable. So let's fix it. Dale says, can you get DNA testing at your primary care office? I'll be taking a trip in North Carolina in December. They can just send it to you at your home. In some states, you can order it. You don't need a doctor's signature. So just go to bladderhealth.org. I think North Carolina is on the list. You can just order it. And then you can take the results with you to your doctor when you go in December. Brenda says you only get pain relief when you go to bed. Well, so you might be getting pain relief because when you're laying down, you don't have gravity pulling on your pelvic floor. So your bladder's kind of flat, your bladder's kind of flat back into place. That might be why. NDYB, interstitial cystitis, doesn't have medication. That's not true. We have lots of different medications that we can use, but it depends upon your subtype, hun. A one treatment fits all approach simply does not work for IC. It does not work. And the reason why it does not work is because there's tremendous diversity in the IC patient population. Not everybody is the same. Some people have bladders that look like bloody hamburger, right? Others have entirely normal bladders. Both of us could be diagnosed with IC, yet clearly we are very different. Some patients have terrible pain. Others have no pain. Both diagnosed with IC, yet clearly they're very different. Some patients have IBS and vulvodynia and a lot of related conditions. Others have no related conditions. Both could be diagnosed with IC, yet clearly they're very different. And where you really see the diversity is in how patients' symptoms start. Because there is a big group of patients whose symptoms begin after a muscle injury, like having a baby or a car accident or a fall or a rape or sexual abuse or a history of athletics where you're just falling all the time, like ice skating or hockey playing or gymnastics, right? Other people, IC begins in childhood when they're like 3 years old. For some people, IC begins when they're older, when they're menopausal. For some people, IC begins after an infection. For others, IC begins after chemotherapy for cancer. All of those could be diagnosed with IC, and clearly we are extremely different. So what we're doing now is something called subtyping. We're trying to find your unique form of IC so that we can focus the right therapy for your form, okay? So let's talk about this for a moment. I know we do this every time, so let's just do this. So for the last 10 years now, doctors have been trying to understand these differences. And we call it subtyping or phenotyping. In Europe, they've been doing it for a decade, and they've got 16 variations, all based on biopsy results. In Canada, they use a system of 6 subtypes. In America, we do not have a national subtyping system that everybody's voted on. But this is a subtyping system that I use because I think it works. It's called the 5 subtypes of IC. And this was written by Dr. Christopher Payne, who ran the IC research program at Stanford University for 25 years. And when he introduced this, he wrote a very, very provocative article that just knocked my socks off, because he said, we need to treat IC patients like cancer patients. And of course I went, oh, hell no. Why the hell are you talking about cancer? There's no relationship between IC and cancer at all. At all. Zero. Zip. None. And he said, no, you're not looking at it right. He said, when somebody's diagnosed with cancer, they're given a very specific diagnosis. Cancer of the left breast, it's estrogen dependent, type 1, 2, 3. When you're diagnosed with cancer, your diagnosis is so incredibly specific that you know exactly what to do next. So like for me last year, my diagnosis was complex endometrial hyperplasia with atypia and a vague architectural complex, confirmed by Stanford, as a matter of fact. What was my immediate treatment? Hysterectomy. Absolutely. Right? So he says, at least with cancer, you know what to do next. But when you're diagnosed with IC, there's no intuitive pathway. You don't know what to do next. Your doctor doesn't know what to do next. Right? Right? How many doctors out there say, I don't know what to do. We're done. We don't know what to do for you next, right? So he said, how do you get that intuitive pathway? With specificity, a specific diagnosis. So let's go through his system. IC subtype 1 is, in fact, Hunner's lesions. Everyone in the world agrees this is a different disease. Hunner's lesions affect 10 to 15% of the IC patient population, maybe just 5%. The reason why we know this is different is because when we do biopsies of those lesions, they are filled with inflammation, What does inflammation mean? Inflammation is a sign that your body is fighting something. It's a sign of a biological war. You know, when you get a mosquito bite or when you've got a skin infection, it gets red. Because your body, your white blood cells are fighting off something. That's part of the inflammatory process. So there's massive inflammation in patients with Hunner's lesions, so much so that everybody in the world agrees this is basically a separate condition. And in fact, in Europe, only patients with lesions are diagnosed with IC. Everybody else is diagnosed with bladder pain syndrome. In the United States, we diagnose them all with ICBPS. That's a whole nother lecture. Hunner's lesions do not respond to Elmeron. Hunner's lesions require lesion-specific therapy, and you can read about that on our website. What's very exciting about this is we now have a treatment that cures Hunner's lesions. It will heal them completely. It's called Lyris. And so here, what we thought was absolutely the worst form of IC, we actually now have a treatment that has healed them completely. Living proof, my friends, that the IC research movement is alive and kicking and doing good things. IC subtype 2, bladder wall driven. So this is bladder injury. So these are the patients who have pain as their bladder fills with urine that is relieved by urination. So the fuller you get, the worse you feel, and as soon as you pee, you feel better. And this makes sense when you look at this, because this is a bladder. This is a real bladder. Imagine this filling with urine. As it gets fuller and fuller, urine is getting into all these wounds. And it hurts like hell, right? So the fuller you get, the worse you feel. And then when you pee and empty your bladder, you feel better. It might only last 5 minutes, but you feel better. That is bladder wall driven. So how does the bladder get injured? Number one, chemical exposure, chemotherapy, drinking too much coffee, drinking too much soda. It can be injured through infection, and it can become weaker and more vulnerable with menopause, which is what we talked about a little bit earlier. For patients with this subtype, we're going to be doing things that are going to, For this subtype, a bladder coating makes sense, and following the diet makes total sense here. So these are the patients who are probably going to start off with something like Cystoprotect and the diet. And there's a whole treatment pathway for that. Okay. IC subtype 3 is pelvic floor driven. This is the biggest subtype, guys, by far. Remember the days where we all thought IC was an incurable bladder disease 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago? And guess what? We don't think of IC as a bladder disease anymore. We think of it as a pelvic pain syndrome. Why? Because other organs in the pelvis are usually involved in most patients. This, in fact, is the biggest subtype. Who knew? Well, now we know. Now we know. So it turns out, again, that when this pelvic floor is tight, let me get my demo. So just to say that you had a couple of babies, or let's say you fell and broke your tailbone, your muscles are weak. And because your muscles are weak, they're struggling to hold up your bladder and or do the job they normally do. So what do? They press down. They get tight, right? They get tight. And when those muscles are tight, what do? They start impeding blood flow. They start impeding blood flow. So look at this. You can see it yourself. Grab your wrist and hold it tight for a couple of seconds, right? And then release. You see that the skin gets white, and then as you release, the blood flow comes back, right? That's what's happening to your bladder. Your bladder is being pressed, and your pelvic floor and everything, all the other organs in your pelvis, because your muscles are so tight, they're not getting good blood flow. So for these patients, when we ask them the question, when is your pain the worst? Before you pee or after you're done peeing? For them, it's afterwards. It's usually not before, it's afterwards. And their pain is steady. It's achier. It has a burning quality to it, a vaginal burning quality to it, or a rectal burning quality to it, because a muscle that's working hard builds up lactic acid and that burns. If you were to go run around your block, halfway around, your leg muscles would start burning. Why? Because they're working. When you work a muscle hard, it builds up lactic acid. That's normal. What's not normal is for your muscles to stay tight. When your muscles stay tight, that's a problem. So for this subtype, we can throw every bladder treatment in the book at you, and you will never get better because it's not solving the problem, which is compromised blood flow for tight muscles. So our therapeutic priority for these people is to restore blood flow by relaxing muscles. Okay. IC subtype 4, pudendal neuralgia. This is not a bladder injury or a muscle injury. This is a nerve injury. So these are the patients who they feel like they're being shocked. They'll get a shooting pain down their leg. You'll have a fasciculation, a buzzing, like you're sitting on a cell phone on vibrate. Sometimes that's a sign of a pudendal nerve entrapment. And so for these patients, what we're going to do is be calming and soothing that nerve. And yes, we may be doing physical therapy for them, because when you tight muscles not only squeeze blood vessels, but they squeeze nerves. So if you ever have sciatica, you notice they're going to have you do piriformis stretches, because it's that piriformis muscle that's pushing the nerve. So they'll have you do that. Then IC subtype 5 is central sensitization. This is more the inherited one. This is my subtype. Every woman in my family on my mother's side, going back generations, has this, characterized by very sensitive skin. We are food sensitive. There are some foods that just don't work in our body, not just our bladder. For me, it's chocolate. It just destroys my gut. We have drug sensitivity. We don't do well with medications. We have to use small amounts of medications rather than large amounts of medication, pediatric doses. We have a wicked sense of smell. We can smell things that other people can't smell, and smells drive us crazy. Those are all signs of central sensitization. So what does that mean? It means that we are either born with a more sensitive nervous system, or an injury or something has happened that has triggered that process. And the odds are, if you have central sensitization, you have already adapted your life because of that. You're not using scented candles. You're not living in the city. You're living a kind of a quieter life because your body reacts to more things. One of the great tragedies of that is that the word sensitive has been weaponized, especially with children. People say you're sensitive, get over it. And that's not fair, because sensitivity means that your action potential on your nerve is lower. It's easier to turn that nerve on. You don't get over that. You learn to adapt it. So I don't think of it as a disease. It's not a disease process. It's our landscape. It explains my life. Now I know why I have a sensitive skin. I have a sensitive vulva. I have a sensitive bladder. I have a sensitive rectum. I have a sensitive stomach. Hello, central sensitization. So getting back to you, to really understand what to do next, we have to really focus on your subtype and how to handle that flare. We have to focus on your subtype, and then we go from there. Oxybutynin is a smooth muscle relaxant. So you've got two different types of muscles in your pelvis. Your pelvic floor are striated muscle. They're the same type of muscle that you find in your legs. And then your bladder is composed of smooth muscle, and smooth muscle behaves differently. And so when you're having bladder spasms, you do a smooth muscle relaxant like oxybutynin, ditropan. If you're having pelvic floor spasms, you do a striated muscle relaxant like Flexeril or Baclofen or Valium. Tamara asked, does IC and acid reflux work together? I'm having both. I'm having to eat cream of wheat, oatmeal to try to calm both issues. I'm so frustrated. How did my life end up like this? I'm believing I'm coming from a certain people group you were talking about, Jill, that are super sensitive. You know, Tamara, the other missing piece of the puzzle here is your biome. I mean, and I think that, you know, decades from now, we're going to be tracing a lot of diseases, a lot of processes like irritable bowel syndrome, not only to sensitivity, but also to biome disruption. And, you know, we are the true antibiotic generations. My generation was the second generation. My parents were the first generation, the third, fourth. So antibiotics kill not only bad bacteria, but good bacteria. And we need good bacteria for normal bowel health and for normal bladder health. So I really think that in the future, you're going to see a lot more biome-driven therapies. And I think we're going to start treating infections with good bacteria, you know, because in your bladder, you've got a population of bad bacteria, potentially bad bacteria and good bacteria. And they're fighting and they're controlling each other. But then one gets out of balance and starts hammering down on the other. So if we put more good bacteria in there to keep the bad bacteria out of control, under control, I think that that's going to be the future of a lot of treatment. Dr. Lonnie Herman. I heard about Dr. Lonnie Herman. If it sounds too good to be true, in my opinion, it might be too good to be true. He's got a lot of articles on videos on how to cure rare diseases and difficult diseases. I would go to the state medical board, see what they have. I don't know anything else about it. He certainly has absolutely no reputation in the interstitial cystitis world at all. And if he does, he needs to publish his research and prove it and share it with other doctors. I really hate it when people say they've got the perfect treatment for IC, but they won't share it. Like, seriously, put your money where your mouth is. If you think you've got the cure for IC, for God's sake, write a paper on it and share it with other doctors and do the right thing so that we can all look at it and make sure maybe you're onto something. That'd be fantastic if you're onto something. But don't hide it, for God's sake. I'm not saying he is. I don't know anything about him, but I want to see research to back it up. I'm not interested in sending anybody $5,000 to $10,000 to help me. You know, I'll give you an example. There's a group out here in California that offers week-long retreats for pelvic pain, and that costs tens of thousands. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was like $10,000 a week or something like that. Don't quote me like that. And a couple of IC patients went to it, and they called me back afterwards, and they were pretty upset. And it's like, why? And they said, because they taught us relaxation methods. I could have gone to a therapist here for $150 and learned the same thing rather than spend $5,000 to $10,000 to fly out to California to do something. So anyway, it's a little rant here. Angie says, second UTI in a month. This time it's E. coli bacteria. Yeah, you can have it. You can get more than one UTI a month. And again, that next generation testing might be really interesting. It'd be very interesting to see what it finds. But also, too, for women who get infections over and over and over again, we have to really think about the role of menopause, right? Because remember here, this is estrogen dependent. So when you lose estrogen, this becomes much thinner and it's easier for bacteria to attach to these cells. So normally a postmenopausal woman or a perimenopausal woman who's starting to get recurring infections, they will almost always give you an estrogen cream to use vaginally to get some estrogen in here to allow your body to produce more mucus that will give you some self-defense from that infection. But if it is chronic, then identifying it correctly is a thing to do, and that's what this would do. And then it's also worth asking your doctor, why are you more vulnerable to infection? Aside from menopause, is there something else that might be going on? Might be worth a discussion with your doctor about that. Holy smoke, guys! 156 comments ahead of where I am. I'm sorry, I'm late, but. Catherine asks, what is my understanding of cyclosporin? Cyclosporin is a step 5 treatment option for interstitial cystitis. There are many research studies that support its use in low doses. Unfortunately, it is step 5 for a reason. It can have a lot of side effects, not the least of which is promoting high blood pressure. I've worked with a number of patients who've used cyclosporin very, very successfully, but you have to be on top of it. And in one case, she might even be in here right now. I won't say her name, obviously. The cyclosporin dramatically improved her health. But about a year afterwards, she started getting pretty high blood pressure. So they're reducing doses to try to manage stuff. Katisha asks, does anybody else have endometriosis? Endo is a common related condition to IC. It's called the evil twin. We don't know why they occur together, except that I've always believed that there's a small hormone subtype. So that might be a connection. It might be physical damage, physical trauma, endometriosis limiting blood flow, or both of them causing pain that then causing your pelvic floor to get tight. Betsa, how do you know if you have a pelvic floor injury? Well, you feel it, hun. I mean, the first time I felt it, and I remember I was a kid and I got constipated and I was straining like mad to have a poop. And I remember afterwards that I could feel my muscles down there. I knew that I had strained those muscles. So how do you know if you've got a pelvic injury? There are clear symptoms. If you've got a pelvic floor muscle injury, your muscles get tight. It's hard to pee. It's hard to have a bowel movement. It's hard to have sex. You might have that burning sensation. You might be walking differently. You might have low back pain. You might have sciatica. You might have a vibration. You might have a fasciculation where you're like sitting on a cell phone on vibrate. There are lots of potential symptoms for pelvic injury. For me, after my hysterectomy, I had a pulling sensation. I still get it every now and then. It drives me crazy. Where it's like there's a fist up my vagina that like grabs my innards and just squeezes and pulls down. And that's a levator spasm of the levator muscle. And I have to whip out my glass wand and massage that muscle. Hey, I think it's time for another freebie. What do you say? Is it time for another freebie? Well, since we're talking about tight muscles, I'm going to share my favorite thing, which is a body heating pad. I use these almost every day. These are cool. So this is a heating pad that will deliver. I'm just opening it up. It will deliver heat for 8 or 9 hours. And look, it's super thin, right? Super, super thin. So once you peel off the back, you put it wherever you have pain. So if I'm, sorry, that's my menopause belly. So you can put it right here, right? And it will stick for hours. You can put it inside. You don't put it on your skin, right? You put it on cotton. So look, you could be wearing this all day and no one would have a clue you have heat. So I use this when I'm traveling, when I'm driving, if I'm having a flare. But there are some days where I tend to put it the most is like right here. Or I will go straight up here with 3 of them. Or again, for me, for my, because my pelvic floor issue is really right on that left butt cheek. And there's a lot of tension right here. And so I will usually just kind of like put it right here, but I'll put it inside my pants, which I'm going to do here. I'm going to put it on my underwear. Not that you needed to know that, my friends. Oh, okay. These, I am telling you, belong in everybody's IC toolkit. They are fantastic. And I have been using these for 20 years. And you know, the price has only gone up once in 20 years. You can buy 3 of them for $3.99 from our store. Actually, it might, yeah, I think it's $3.99. Anyway, all right. So our next freebie is going to be 6 pads. 6 pads of our body heating pad just in time for you traveling over the holidays. Okay. So here, hold on a sec. I'm going to pick another number. So Robin won the IC Chef Cookbook. Okay, I'm writing down another number right now for the body heating pad. And this time it's going to be a number between 1 and 100 and hold on. Okay. I have written down my number. Oh, and crap. If I scroll down, hold on. Let me open up another browser. If I scroll down here, I'm going to lose it. No. Okay, don't do it yet. I'm not looking at anything yet. Don't put your numbers in yet. You have to do it when I say start, okay? Because if I scroll down, I'm going to lose all these questions and I don't want to do that. So hold on a sec. I'm opening it up in another browser. Okay. All right, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it starting now. Starting now. Go ahead and put your numbers in on YouTube and on Facebook. Frida, my dear, you vote. You got it. Frida did number 12. So Frida, I need you to send me your mailing information. Your mailing information to icnetwork@mac.com. icnetwork@mac.com. And I will send those out to you tomorrow. All right, let me close this window. All right, you're going back to your questions. Dale says, if the doctor doesn't call back, you're going to drive down to their office and invade their office. You go. Do it. Do it. Cheryl Camp, do I have a suggestion to treat IC in Pittsburgh? No. The one doctor I knew, Michael Chancellor, moved to Michigan. You can check their database on our website. We have a database of doctors in our website. Also in that area of Pennsylvania, you've got Dr. Robert Eckenberg, who practices out of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, who happens to be probably the best pelvic pain specialist in the United States. Robert Eckenberg. That's Echenberg. Alexa says, what's an alternative to aloe vera? Your alternative to aloe vera is easy. It is going to be Cystoprotec. There's no aloe in Cystoprotec. And so this would be your bladder coating to try. Catherine says, what does cyclosporin do to help Hunner's lesions? Remember, Hunner's lesions are filled with inflammation. The rest of the subtypes don't have that inflammatory process. And so that's what the cyclosporin would do, is it would attack that inflammation and try to control it. Krista asked, would multiple pelvic surgeries cause pelvic damage? You better believe it. Absolutely. Anytime you have a pelvic surgery, they're cutting muscle, they're moving things around. That is one of the key risk factors for pelvic floor dysfunction, is pelvic surgery, for sure. You can buy the heating pads right from the IC Network in our store, or you can go to icnsales.com. And when you buy from the IC Network, you support this live support group meeting, which is great. It helps us and it helps you. Look at all those votes. Guys, I have one more freebie for you, and it's a good one, so don't go away. Kay, can you buy these heating pads anywhere? I don't think so. I have seen them at surgical supply stores. I've never seen them in regular stores. You might find them at a ski store, a cold weather store. But we can send you 30 for a good price. So we have a lot of people who just buy 30 at a time. Katisha asks, is it possible to have more than one subtype? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm IC subtype 5 central sensitization, but I'm also IC subtype 3 pelvic floor, because I have this stupid levator issue, this levator piriformis problem on my left side. My bladder is secondary, so I'm subtype 2 secondary. So I'm IC subtype 5 primary, pelvic floor primary, bladder wall secondary. So what does that mean? It means my bladder really isn't a problem. It's really my muscles that are the dominant problem that I've got to focus on. And what do I take for my subtype? So I have a cheat sheet right here that I can show you my cheat sheet. Woo! This is my cheat sheet. And I don't want you to read it because it's messy. But this is straight from the Chris Payne article, and you can actually on our website we have links to his video where he introduces his subtypes and he goes through these treatments. But for IC subtype 5 central sensitization, we have to focus on the central nervous system. We have to focus on calming the central nervous system. So the first thing we want to do is we want to avoid those things that we know are overstimulatory, like caffeine. If I drink caffeine, I shake like a leaf for 2 days and I don't sleep. I will not sleep at all. That's because my nervous system is very sensitive and vulnerable. Another big part of it is learning to control anxiety, because when you're sensitive, you're not only sensitive to chemicals on the outside of your body, you're sensitive to chemicals on the inside of your body, specifically adrenaline. We tend to be very, very sensitive to adrenaline. We tend to have a lot of negative thoughts. And every time you have a negative thought, you get a boost of adrenaline. And then bam, when you've got so much adrenaline thrown into your bloodstream, that hello, panic attack, hello, catastrophic thinking. And so, and I've talked about this before. We have a video on our website called Anxiety and IC. A key point of this is learning to keep your adrenaline levels low so they do not overstimulate your nervous system. And the way you do that is a very, very easy way. It's, and I took a class. Oh, that was so weird. What was that? That was so weird. Hold on. Something moved over here. Okay. So I took a wonderful anxiety management class, and that's what it explained, is you got to learn how to control your adrenaline levels. So how do you do it? Every time you have a negative thought, you need to visualize a stop sign. Just close your eyes and just visualize a stop sign for a moment. So let's give you an example. I'm going to have to drive 50 miles for Thanksgiving, right? Like, oh, hello, shot of adrenaline, fight or flight response. Ow, I don't want to do it, right? Okay, so when you do that, so first thing you do is you close your eyes and just visualize a stop sign. Just stop your breath for a moment, right? Then take a nice, slow, deep breath in, out. In for 4 seconds. Out for 4 seconds. And then you need to minimize the thought. It's like, oh my God, Jill, you have no idea how you're going to be feeling on Thursday. For all you know, it's going to be a great day and you can go anywhere. Stop imagining it. It's not real. It's just your imagination. Don't give it any power. Or sometimes I'll say, oh my God, Jill, you're not God. You can't predict the future. Get a grip. You have to wait till that day to see how you're doing, right? So every time you have a negative thought, you get a big jolt of adrenaline. And if you're like me, you got lots and lots, you used to have lots and lots and lots and lots of negative thoughts, because that's what happens. When you get a lot of adrenaline, it just gets worse and worse and worse. You just get in this really vicious cycle. So what they did is they taught us the technique: stop sign, deep breath, minimize the thought. They sent us home and they said, you're going to do this hundreds of times. We're warning you now, it is going to drive you crazy. Do it, because we're trying to accomplish a goal. We're trying to reduce the adrenaline, because that oxygen turns off the adrenaline from that negative thought. Okay, so they were right. I went home, did it 200 times the first day. I was stunned. I had so many negative thoughts. The next day was 100. The day after that, it was like 75. The day after that, it was like 50. The day after that, I did it like 20 times. A week later, I was doing it once a day. And you know what? My anxiety was massively gone, because I was finally controlling that adrenaline level, and it calmed my nervous system down completely. And now I do it, well, before my uterine cancer scare, I was doing it maybe once a month. But then the cancer was a whole nother story. But even then, on the way to the hospital for every test and 2 emergency surgeries, I never had a panic attack, because I was doing that in the car. So stop sign, deep breath, minimize the thought. I promise you it will help. All righty. The IC Network store, again, is at icnsales.com, or you can just come to the main website, IC Network, and just click on shop. It'll take you there. Becky says, is physical therapy for pelvic floor dysfunction lifelong or until our muscles calm? It's just till your muscles calm down, hun. That's all. It's all about muscle training. You know, muscles have memory. Right now, your memory might be might be bad, in the sense that your muscles think they're supposed to be tight. So we have to teach them how to be relaxed again. So it's like going to the gym, but instead of going to the gym to strengthen a muscle, you're going to a gym to relax a muscle. You're going to the gym to teach that muscle how to behave normally, because it's just messed up. It got hurt, and it just doesn't know how to function normally. Muscles are beautifully responsive to therapy, beautifully responsive to therapy. We can use the word cure for a pelvic floor dysfunction. In fact, that's what Dr. Payne argues in his subtyping articles, is how unfair it is to tell patients this is uncurable. That is not true. Some of these subtypes are curable, and pelvic floor dysfunction is curable. Alyssa, you have severe anxiety. So Alyssa, I also had anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety as a kid because when I was growing up in my neighborhood, we had another kid who was mentally ill and later raped and murdered my neighbor. And so we all knew that we had someone who was very, very mentally ill, and we were not protected as well as we should have been. And I got to the point where I was afraid to walk to school. And so I had anxiety from that. I still think about it today, every now and then. Just talking about it here makes me go back to those terrible years, the 3 years where we had a murderer in our midst. And we knew it, but the schools couldn't do anything about it until he finally did it, and he raped and murdered my neighbor. And so anxiety is there's a whole cascade of reactions that happen, that happen to your body when you're exposed to anxiety for long periods of time. But if you remember, where is it? I have been talking about this new book called When It Hurts Down Here. And I don't have the copy because it's at my printer. But it's written by Dr. Angie Storr, who's an OBGYN in Texas. And her book is mind-blowingly good because it talks about how pain is processed. So like it goes from your bladder to your spinal cord, to your lower brain, through the gateway, to your midbrain, and then to your upper brain. And then it's your upper brain that tells you to do something. And it's all split second, right? But so at the lower brain, that's the gateway. And so only the most important messages come to the middle brain. But the midbrain offers you context. It offers you context. Is it a good pain or is it a bad pain? Is it the pain that you might feel on a roller coaster? Or is it the pain you might feel when you've fallen down? Or that you're being chased by a wolf or whatever, right? And in that book, and I wish I had it, dang it, she talked about learned fear, that when we are exposed to something tragic, like what happened to me, we develop a learned fear. I had for many, many years a fear of men because I was tortured by a guy, I mean, how many of us were abuse victims? I was an abuse victim. And in her pain management approach, she talks about combating that learned fear with positive memories. And it's a whole brain chemistry thing. I mean, and you think about the brain, like it's all these round little areas, right? And so it's not like there's one pathway that it goes through. It'll go through the gate, it'll go to the midbrain, it'll go up here, but then it's kind of diffused through different parts of the brain. Now, one of the ways that we fight pain is we actually make these other parts of the brain do other things instead of pay attention to the pain, if that makes sense. And so why does positive thinking work? And it works, my friends. It works so well because it's actually changing the context. It's changing the midbrain. I wish I could explain it to you better. When you think about my childhood, I have every reason to give up back then. Every single reason to give up. And I almost did. But the thing that saved me, this is going to sound crazy, is John Denver, because that's when John Denver was big. And I just started listening to John Denver and finding peace and happy things, and inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. You know what? I gave myself happiness. You know, my favorite song is Looking for Space. And I'm looking for space and to find out who I am. I want to know and understand, right? And now I was a kid. I didn't understand anything. All I knew is I wanted to be happy. And if you know me now, you know that I'm a very happy person. And I'm a master of positive thinking because it is that positive thinking that got me here. And you know who does it for me today is Joel Osteen. And I am not a Bible thumper in any way, shape, or form. I like happy messages. I like people giving me tips and strategies and how to do this and how to do that and how to look at something differently. And when it comes to pain management, what is that doing? That's changing the context. So instead of going from learned fear, we're going to learned happiness. God, I hope that that makes sense. I really hope that that makes sense. If you could look at my office, I'll give you an example. Hold on. Where is it? Oh, here it is. This is my thing. Believe. And there are actually lights here. It's just the battery's out. Okay. I have this everywhere. I've got pillows that say believe because I had to believe when I was a kid that there was something better for me and there was something I was supposed to do. I believe in your future. I believe in my future. Fill your day with happy things, inspirational things. Put affirmations everywhere in your house. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or I can do all things through Spirit who strengthens me, or I can do all things through love who strengthens me. When you fill your brain with happy things, you are distracting those portions of the brain that focus on pain. And that is a very, very good thing. And biologically, that is exactly what's happening. All right, let me get off my soapbox. I'll come back here. Somebody's saying, I think somebody mentioned taking vinegar in the morning. I don't believe in that. Vinegar is, you know, you guys have to understand that there are some acids that when they're digested turn alkaline. And so lemon juice is an example. When you drink lemon juice, when it is digested, it becomes alkaline. Our goal is to be neutral, pH neutral. And so, you know, we don't want you to eat things that are high in acid, nor do we want you to eat things that are high in alkalinity. Now, we don't take the time to say, you know, with lemons and with citrus, it's really alkaline when it finally gets to your bladder, because that's a biochemical explanation that takes longer than we have. It's just easier to say, let's just avoid products that are high in acid. And lemon is high in acid, vinegar is high in acid. But when it's metabolized, it becomes high in alkalinity, which is equally bad. You know, if you know the difference between sulfuric acid, which obviously is very bad, and bleach, which is very bad. Sulfuric acid is pH 1 or 2, so bleach is pH 10 or 11, right? If you spill bleach on your finger, it gets slippery. Why? Because it's dissolving your skin cells. Bleach is bad. So we want to be pH neutral, and that's why I don't support doing apple cider vinegar every day. If it was anything but IC, I would, but when you've got a Hunter's lesion or bladder wall injury, I think it's a mistake, but we're all different. Krista says the seat heater in her car saves your life in long trips, even around town. Yeah, it really helps a lot of people. Just make sure you understand that when you're sitting on heat, you're creating a really nice environment for yeast to grow. And so don't do it all the time. Just do it when you're traveling. Sophie says, you get anxiety when you think of leaving the house. Girl, come on now. You don't need to have anxiety when you leave the house. But what I want you to do, but I know you do because I did too. I went through, about a year where I was afraid to leave the house after I was attacked in another situation. You know, we women, we certainly have been victims in many, many situations. Open the door and just take a couple of steps out and breathe in the beautiful air. Every day, just open the door and walk outside. Walk a little bit farther every time and do stop sign, deep breath, minimize the thought. Because remember, when you're moving, you're producing natural painkillers. You're producing endorphins. But there are lots of good videos online. There are good doctors. You might want to go to an anxiety specialist to try to really understand why you're afraid of leaving the house. I know why, and he's gone. He's dead. And so I don't need to be afraid to leave the house anymore. But there might be, let's make sure we know what else is going on. Okay. If you're struggling, ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. Remember, God didn't give you the skills to deal with anxiety or a rapist or a murderer in elementary school, like what happened with me. God didn't give me the skills to deal with that when I was born. You got to learn them. Or you're going to fake it and suffer and try to fake it and figure it out on your own, prolonging your agony. Why not just go to an expert who knows what to do? Because they can guide you and help you. They've been through this. They've got really good systems that can work you through this, okay? We have ants. Automatic negative thoughts. Biofeedback helped you tremendously. Good to hear, Terry. Sarah says she gets a terrible anxiety about your bladder and your chronic IBS. Okay, use the system and let's get you subtyped correctly so that you can focus on the treatments that will help the most. Alexis asks, where can I find the support group near you? Check our website. We have a list of support groups. The ICA also has a list of support groups. Our lists tend to be a little bit different. But just know that support groups come and go really quickly. And so you might find a group on our website that might have shut down, or there might be a new group. It's a dynamic process here. They've got to let us know so we can let you know. And sometimes they don't. Diana says she had Hunter's lesions and that Neurontin gabapentin has helped her so much that you're hardly in any pain. That is awesome, my dear. Congratulations. I love it. Lisa, she's afraid to leave the house due to frequency and walking causes me pain. All right. So Lisa, anytime walking hurts, that points to muscles, my dear. That points to muscles. And so 6 months ago, you were playing tennis 4 times a week. Lisa, I'll make you a deal. If we ever meet, we're going to play tennis. I would love to play tennis with you. Let's get you better, and maybe we can make that happen sometime. I haven't picked up a racket in 20 years. I played professionally for a while, though. It was fun. Harry says, does interested help with conditions? I need to know what that means. Sarah Lubetti says she has chronic IBS, no medications work, having to take morphine and diazepam. Sarah, if you actually look at the research with chronic IBS as well as Crohn's disease, they're doing a lot of biome work. They're doing a lot of really aggressive probiotic, prebiotic work with some pretty hard stuff. That's getting amazing results, absolutely amazing results. And so maybe, just maybe, I have to take the paper off the wall for light now. Maybe, just maybe, you need to go from your local doctor to a regional or a national IBS specialist to get to maybe participate in some clinical trials with those good beneficial gut bacteria. Don't give up, my dear. Do not give up. And if you want to talk about it, because I have IBS too, my IBS is very, very controlled. Feel free to call me tomorrow, and I would love to talk with you a little bit more about IBS. Rebecca says she thinks being in an abusive relationship for 20 years affected your bladder. You know, the thing about the pelvic floor that you have to understand is it's the first muscle that usually gets tight when you're under stress. And so unfortunately, we end up in a chronic clenching pattern. And we also have research now that shows that people who clench their jaws tend to clench their pelvic floor and vice versa. And I think I agree with you. I think that that is a stress response. And you and I have had a very similar journey about healing ourselves physically and mentally, you know, from some pretty bad things happening. And it's hard, but, you know, I firmly believe that we're here for a reason. I think that you have an important role to play with the people who know you. I have an important role to play with the people that I know, and in doing these support group meetings and the people that we do, I think that God always has a plan. There's always a plan. There's always a purpose. It's so funny when I'm working, and if something stops on the internet, it's kind of like, I just go, okay, that's just my guardian angel telling me to do this instead. So I do. I don't fight it. I won't throw the computer out the window anymore. It's like, okay, this is not happening. Clearly, there's something else I'm supposed to be doing that's important. Terry compares anxiety disorder to like it's a horse on a grinding mill. We keep going round and round, digging the ruts, rewiring our brains. We literally have to jump out of that rut and feed our brains new info to get out of that fear. Boy, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. You know, again, the power of positive thinking, Joel Osteen, John Denver, whatever is comforting and encouraging and makes you think. You know, like in the book, When It Hurts, she talks about when you're in pain, start thinking about the good things that have happened in your life. Go back through them. Go back through them. Get your brain focusing on something happy, and that changes the midbrain. And so for me, that would be certain family events that were really fun, or going to Disneyland, or going to Europe with my mom, or whatever. Just we have to distract that brain from focusing on the bad thing by focusing on the good things. Thank you, Regina. That's very sweet. Guys, if you like these support group meetings, the way you can help us is by becoming a member of the IC network. Become a member of the IC network, where you will get our magazine, The IC Optimist. I curate this magazine just like I curate the IC network website. We are rated #1 in the world by Harvard Medical School and the University of London. I tell you, I work my ass off doing it. I tend to work 10 to 12-hour days. But I love it. You know, I'm in one of those situations where I love, love, love my job. I was listening to, God, a doctor shared a video, and I'll have to find it. And it was talking about how to find joy at work or something like that. And they were talking about the Marines, and they were saying in the Marines, you know, when you go to boot camp, they give you obstacles that you cannot do by yourself. You have to do it as a group. And for the first 2 weeks, people try to do it by themselves over and over and over and over again. And finally, it dawns on them, it takes a group to do this. It takes people to do this. And that's what the Marines try to do in boot camp, is they try to create that trust of each other, the man on the left or the woman on the right. And in this lecture, they were talking about taking that even further in your daily life by doing small things to help other people. So like we have a guy, an older guy in our neighborhood. He's like 80 years old, 85 years old. He runs every day. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows him. This story's written about. He's been running every day for 60 years. And he's been running through the smoke. And I saw him one day, and I had a gas mask in the car, smoke mask in the car, and I thought, God, I should give it to him. But I didn't. But I saw him the very next day, and he was running in even worse smoke, and I pulled over, and I gave him my gas mask. It's like, you have to. And he was like, oh, my God, thank you. I'd never met him before. And then they were talking about what that does in the brain. It was so interesting. It's so important to help other people. That when you help other people, it gives you that a pride at the end of the day of knowing that you've done something good. Because it's not about the money, it's not about the computers, or this or anything like that. It's about how we're treating the people around us. That goes a long way in how we're feeling and how good we feel and all that sort of stuff. So if you were going to do anything, and I was thinking about that today as I was thinking about this meeting. I would challenge you this holiday season to find an IC patient and help them. Find an IC patient near you and help them physically. Do something for them, whether it is bringing them food, whether it is helping to clean their house or do their laundry or taking them to a movie or whatever, where you can laugh as you get a seat on the aisle near the bathroom and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, my challenge to you through the holidays is to find an IC patient and help them. I promise you, you will help yourself 10 times more by doing that. Krista, your daughter goes to Sonoma State. Cool. I got my master's there. Can catheters be ordered without prescription? No. I do not believe they can. I think you have to have a prescription. I think pharmacies have to have a prescription on file to send them to you. Although there is a company online that does a lot of catheter advertising that sends out samples, and you might be able to do that. And I don't remember their name. Just Google it. Rebecca, I have a chronic UTI, Jill. If I do any form of exercise, even just shopping, I deteriorate. I get more burning when peeing, clamminess, more bladder awareness. Does this mean I could also have pelvic floor? Well, your pelvic floor is going to get tight because your bladder's hurting you, girl. But seriously, if you've got UTI, that's your problem. So again, you need to be doing this next generation urine test. I mean, that's critically important for you. We need to know once and for all what this infection is. And this test will do it. And this company will also do sinus testing. They'll do prostate testing. They do all sorts of testing. When you go over there, and if you click on the link to order, you'll see that there are lots of just different tests that you can do that will isolate this. And this is really changing lives. So if you think you have a chronic infection, prove it. Do the test. If this comes back negative, girl, you do not have chronic infection. I wouldn't think you would. But it would also be interesting to maybe do it before antibiotics and then after antibiotics, and just to see how your biome changes. Bladderhealth.org. Yeah, I clench my teeth at night too. I'm a tongue pusher too. I have the world's ugliest tongue because I push it through my teeth sometimes. Not that you needed to know that. Again, I have no shame. I'll talk about anything. So the catheter that we really like is a low-fric catheter. That's low-fric, L-O-F-R-I-C. So look for those. Melissa says she belongs to an IC group called TL Mail, where members send encouraging cards or letters to each other with IC. It's so encouraging. Melissa, I hadn't heard of that group. That's fantastic. I love it. One way that Facebook actually can really be supportive and encouraging. I love it because Facebook can be a pit sometimes. So TL Mail. Dale says that boxing and pound fitness helps with anxiety. I mean, I agree with that. I think, guys, when you're physically active, remember you're producing different chemicals in your brain. you're producing endorphins, which are natural pain fighters. You know, your natural instinct when you're in pain is to stop moving. And that's the worst thing you can do, because when you move, you start producing endorphins. And so they're going to want you to start walking. And again, you know, walking out the sidewalk, walking out of your house to the street and walking back. Do that a couple times. If you're good with that, walk up a house and then walk back, walk down a house and then walk back. And every day, try to go a little bit farther, doing your deep breathing, doing that. And you know, another thing that I do is I do chakra meditation, but I do it in a different way. When I was swimming, and even if I'm rowing at the gym, I will do a chakra rotation. So I don't know if you know what your chakras are, but they're considered energy points. So you've got to stand up. Let me stand up. So you've got a chakra right here that's red, a chakra over your bladder, which is orange, a chakra over your stomach, which is yellow, a chakra over your chest, which is green, a chakra over your throat, which is blue, a chakra over your brain, which is turquoise, and a chakra at the top of your head that's purple. And each chakra is associated with an emotion. And so what I would do is I would swim 10 laps with each color, because I'm very color driven. So I would swim 10 angry red laps where I hit the water as hard as I could. And then I'd swim 10 orange laps where I'd feel very sexy, because that's the sexy area. And then do yellow, which is the nourishment, and green, yada, yada, yada. And so that's kind of another, I think that when you're stressed and anxious and frustrated and angry, because underneath it all, there's a lot of anger. I have had a lot of anger over the years because of that stupid kid when I was young. You can't let it congeal in your body. You got to let it out. And if it's hitting a bag or hitting water hard or rowing hard, I call it, it's kind of like you're a tornado. When you're so caught up in that anger and that fear and all that, it's like you're spinning in a circle and you can't stop yourself. Now I need you to stop yourself for a moment. Just hold your hands, stop yourself from spinning, and let's move forward in a direction. And one of the ways that you stop yourself from spinning is you just get the anger out, whether it's journaling or whether it's hitting something or running, whatever. Every day you got to take 15 minutes and just address your health a little bit that way. Sophie said, my doctor said no cure for my IC, but Elmeron and some procedures can help with the pain. So Sophie, it'd be very interesting to know what subtype you have. Sarah's asking, what's Elmeron? Elmeron is a bladder coating. It's the only FDA-approved medication for IC. This is, in fact, an Elmeron educational postcard from years ago. And so actually, it demonstrates what Elmeron does. So you can see the normal coating here is missing. And when you take Elmeron, it puts a new coating here to try to cover any injuries or wounds in your bladder to prevent urine from getting in there. Elmeron has been around for 20 years. It was approved in 1996. It is a hard medication for the body overall because 93% of it is destroyed by digestion when you take it. Elmeron was taken to, let me give you the background here. Prior to the development of Elmeron, almost everything was delivered to the bladder through a catheter. And catheters back then hurt, and treatments back then hurt. So the thought of having an oral medication that someone could take that was not traumatic, that could help the bladder, just made sense. So Dr. Lowell Parsons, the guy who made Elmeron, who invented Elmeron, that's what he was trying to accomplish. He was trying to give you a bladder coating that you could take by mouth. But if you swallowed a Band-Aid, would you expect it to come out the other end of a Band-Aid? And the answer is no, you have digestion. And so digestion destroys 93% of Elmeron. It is rendered inactive before it arrives in the bladder. So only 7% arrives in the bladder. And that's from research the company itself produced. So because that bioavailability is so low, you have to take a lot of Elmiron to build up a coating. And that's where it gets tricky, because Elmiron can cause a lot of side effects. It can cause easy bruising, blood thinning, hair loss, gut issues, diarrhea, stomach upset. The old instructions for Elmiron told people to take it on an empty stomach. That does not work for a lot of patients. You have to take it with food because it can be pretty aggressive to the stomach. Today, we have two issues with Elmiron. Issue number one is that it is now very expensive. It is now off patent. The manufacturer has raised the price because they were anticipating that a generic would be available. Unfortunately, the generic is not available. And so now we have a medication that used to cost $75, costing $900 to $2,000 per prescription, depending upon your insurance company. So who the hell can afford that? I can't afford that. That's ridiculous. So a lot of patients have had no choice. They financially cannot afford Elmiron. So what they have done instead is they have gone to Cysto Protec or Cysto Renew or Desert Harvest Aloe as supplements that create coatings. This is not from me. This is what the doctors are taught in their IC classes. If you go back on our Facebook page to last spring, I have a picture of the exact slide from the American Urology Association that talked about mucosal barrier replacements for patients intolerant to Elmiron. So if you cannot take Elmiron, Dr. Robert Evans, Robert Moldwin suggests Cysto Protec, etc. But now we have a new issue with Elmiron, and that is it has now been connected to rare eye disease. Researchers at the Emory Eye Center believe that they have now found a new, very severe eye disease that they believe is a result of the long-term use of Elmiron. That research came out in April. Actually in May, but we didn't learn about it because it was only published to eye doctors. Urologists didn't know about it until August. And it's heartbreaking. So Elmiron has been associated now with pigmentary maculopathy. What they think is happening is that toxic metabolites of the Elmiron are accumulating on the retina and damaging eyesight permanently. Here is the article. Pigmentary maculopathy associated with chronic exposure to pentosan. This is an interesting story. The Emory Eye Center specializes in rare diseases. Their doctors started referring quite a few IC patients to them, 32, as a matter of fact, when they were first noticed this. And they eliminated genetic diseases, other potential causes. And then they finally started focusing on one thing, and that is all these patients were using Elmiron. So they did something called a case series. That's what this is. A case study is one patient. This is a review of 6 patients. It is the first foray into published research on this. And the theory is the longer patients were taking it, the more the metabolites were going on the retina. However, it is worth noting that the youngest patient in the study was 24 when she was diagnosed and given Elmiron. By the time she was 30 years old, 6 years later, she had eye disease. And I can show you a picture of what it looks like. There are very specific tests that are ordered. So this is a time sequence. So this was a patient early. And then as they followed this patient, the damage, the retina got bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can see the same thing here. These are different tests of the retina. So these doctors wrote to the Journal of Urology to let urologists know that they believed that they had found this rare eye disease. I found this article last week of August. I cannot even begin to tell you how stunned I was, because one of the things that they wrote is that patients taking Elmeron experiencing eye disease should stop the medication immediately. And as soon as they made that recommendation, I knew I had to come to you as patients and tell you that. We're the only patient organization that's telling people that. It's pissing me off because this is big. So what I did is I contacted Emory. I went to my medical board and I built a survey. And we now have over 720 respondents to our survey. And I will tell you that 53% of Elmeron users are reporting eye disease. 53%. Now, those patients haven't been, that data would have to be massaged tremendously, because we'd have to remove hereditary macular degeneration and stuff like that. But I sent my data off to Stanford, and Dr. Phil Hanno, the chairman of the American Urology Association Eye Committee, he was staggered by it, and he asked me to send it to the US FDA. And we now have an active citizens petition with the FDA that got accepted last week. I can give you the petition number, where we are asking the FDA to review the research and to change the labeling of Elmeron, telling patients to be aware of potential eye changes. And I can also tell you that a major medical association has also issued that same warning. And we'll see. Dr. Jane at Emory, I just got an email from him yesterday. They are now launching a much larger formal survey, better than mine. And I'll be sending that out to our blast email and putting that out to social networking. I need all of you to fill out this survey. I believe that Elmeron causes eye disease. Based upon what I'm seeing and the patients that I'm talking with, I believe that in some patients it happens. So we got to have our eyes wide open. Is Elmeron an IC treatment? Absolutely. It is for IC subtype 2 bladder wall driven. Does it help thousands of patients? Absolutely. Do some of those patients have eye issues? Yes. Do many? No. Do I want it taken away as an IC treatment? Absolutely not. But I think you need to be informed. If you are taking Elmeron, you need to pay attention to your eyesight. And if your eyesight is changing, you need to take this research to your doctor and have them look for it. And at that point, what the eye doctor says, you should stop taking the Elmeron. And that's when, again, you would potentially go to something like this, another mucosal barrier. Okay, so I'm very proud of the fact that we went through a citizen petition. It was a pain in the butt. I had to do it. I rewrote it 4 or 5 times before it was accepted. But I finally got it accepted with the data, with all the updated data. All right. Lark, any experience with Azo Yeast Plus Dual Relief? Oral pills for yeast infection combined? No, I don't know anything about it. Azo, let me look at it. Azo Yeast Plus. I'm doing something my physical therapist would be very angry if he saw me doing. I'm sitting on one foot. I shouldn't be doing that. Let's look at it. Yeast infection symptom relief of itching and burning with vaginal symptom release for odor and discharge. Well, what on earth is in it? That is the question. I'm curious now. Will it cure yeast infections? No, it's just to relieve symptoms. I don't see the ingredients, hon. If I could find the ingredients. Why do I not see the ingredients here? Ratings and reviews, product facts, and directions. Oh. It's got Candida albicans, creosotum, natrium, and sulfur. I don't know. I don't think I would use it. Regina asked, why isn't there a generic form of Elmeron? Because the company that's trying to do it, which is a company in called Swati Spentos in India, is required to provide all of, repeat all of the original FDA research studies. And they have not been able to do that, I do not think. I have not talked to them in quite a while. They're very expensive to do. And when their generic Elmeron's available in Canada and Europe, everywhere else, it's just not available in the United States. But guys, seriously, even if it's available, remember the eye connection. Terry says, I was told by a doctor mentioned here frequently, maybe 3 to 4 years ago, that I had chronic IC and would always have it. He stole my hope. I now have hope because of you in the IC network. Oh, thank you. It's my job, girl. I want to give you hope. I had no hope either. I begged the doctors to take my bladder out when I was 33. Begged him. And he said, no, you haven't done anything yet. And now we know my bladder's healthy. It's not my bladder. I have central sensitization and IBS. Thank God I didn't have my bladder removed. What a waste, what a mistake that would have been. For me, at least. Toby says, you've been on Elmeron for 4 years, better than you were. You diagnosed, however, not sure it's doing anything now. I keep thinking about going off of it. What are my thoughts? So we asked Dr. Parsons that question in a video lecture he did. The IC Network, we've done over 100 live Meet the IC Expert videos. And he was in one of the videos and or chat sessions. And somebody asked that question, will I have to take Elmeron the rest of my life? He said, no, absolutely not. What we have to figure out is it helping you? So how do we figure out if it's helping you? Well, number one, reduce the dose. He said, just reduce the dose. If you're taking 4 a day, take 3 a day for a week. See if your symptoms change. If your symptoms get worse, it's helping you. If your symptoms don't get worse, maybe it's not helping you. So reduce it again. Go from 3 to 2 a day. Do that for a week. If your symptoms get worse, it's helping you. If they're not, maybe it's not. Go to 1 a day. And so gradually reduce your dose. And if you get off of it and your symptoms don't change, then you're gold. You don't need to take it. If your symptoms get worse, then that bladder coating method is beneficial in some way. So the question then becomes, can you afford to use Elmeron? Can you tolerate the side effects? Or would it be reasonable to try another bladder mucosal barrier method? And so it was in 2006 that Dr. Parsons and Dr. Theoharides, the guy who invented Cystoprotect, appeared at the San Diego IC conference. And they were talking about that transition. How would you go from Elmeron to a supplement? And it's the same thing. He said, okay, do a 1-for-1 swap. So if you take 4 Elmeron, take 3 Elmeron and 1 Cystoprotect for a week. See if your symptoms change. If they don't, we're gold. Go to 2 and 2. Then go to 1 to 3. And then go to all 4. But do it gradually. Don't just shock your body by stopping one and starting another. Sometimes, as for those of us who are sensitive, you need to have a gradual approach. So I hope that answered your question, hon. Sophie says, when you go to your doctor for your procedure, you have to take your own Elmeron. So that must mean they're doing an Elmeron installation. And so they're maybe prying open the capsule, doing a mixing with whatever ingredients and putting it into you. It's unusual, but I've heard of that before. You know, a lot of doctors prefer to do a pre-mixed installation where you can't make mistakes because whoever's making the installation in the doctor's office better have a little bit of chemical training, because if they don't, they could make a pretty serious mistake. And we have had historical mistakes in the past with nurses making installations who didn't know the difference between different solutions and ended up really hurting patients. So there is an installation called Hep-Lido-A. It's a heparin, it's a prepackaged heparin lidocaine installation that you can get from compounding pharmacies, where you take all of the mixing away from the doctor's office and it's made at the pharmacy by people who know how to make it. And so, Sophie, that might be something you can do instead. If you're doing an Elmeron installation now with Elmeron lidocaine, that's pretty equivalent to heparin lidocaine. They both do the same thing, but the heparin might be cheaper. I know that the Hep-Lido installations were in the area of $60 a treatment. And the license has now gone back. It was owned by Imprimis Pharmaceuticals for a couple of years. That now license has gone back nationwide to different pharmacies. And so I would look at Hep-Lido-A, heparin lidocaine, as an option instead of doing that if you're uncomfortable with them making it or if it's too expensive. Sarah says, what do I think of Botox? You have this every 5 months and you're put under anesthesia to have it done. Well, Botox is a step 4 treatment option. It is designed to calm nerves. It silences nerves by turning them off. So, people have Botox for wrinkles and, tight jaws and stuff like that. It's been used in the bladder for many years. The theory is that it's nerves in the bladder that are contributing to some of our dysfunction. And so the challenge with Botox, so if this is your bladder, where do they put the Botox? Do they know exactly where to put it? And the answer is no, because our bodies are all uniquely different. So what they do is they will inject it randomly throughout the bladder or the trigone. And if you're lucky, they hit the nerve that's controlling that frequency and you're gold. If you're unlucky, they hit the nerve which controls your ability to pee, and then you have to self-cath for a couple weeks or a couple months until it wears off so that you can urinate on your own. So the reason why Botox is a step 4 treatment option is because it comes with a fairly significant risk of an adverse event, not being able to pee on your own. Botox is not meant to be used by people who are incapable of self-catheterizing. You should be capable of catheterizing to do it. You say you can feel really poorly from it after having it when you do. Sarah, I'd love to talk to you next week sometime, or maybe either before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that. Really like to know what your subtype is, and see if we might be able to find a couple of other treatments that won't carry the risk of the Botox that you might be able to talk with your doctor about. Jeannie says, getting back to the Elmeron eye issue, Rebecca says, thanks for letting us know. Yeah, I felt it was my responsibility to let you know. It's my job. I mean, I'm your representative here, and I don't want to gloss it. I don't want to, as I wrote to the FDA, it's like, should patients have to choose between treating their bladder and their eyesight? And the answer is no, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And I've already had many patients call who have said, thank you for saving my eyesight. One called and said, thank you for preventing blindness, because her eyesight had gotten progressively worse. And they couldn't figure out why until she got my article on it and took it to her doctor, her eye doctor, and she was diagnosed with pigmentary maculopathy and is now under the care of Emory, I believe. Toby asked, are there guidelines for stopping Elmeron? You'd have to, yeah, are there formal guidelines? No. I mean, that's just what the doctor who invented it told me. Are there any withdrawal symptoms? Not that I'm aware of. Elmeron does not cause addiction tolerance or withdrawal, to my knowledge. So Lark was on Elmeron for 5 years and is currently under the care of retina for gray spots in your peripheral vision. Right. I'm sorry, hun. I'm so sorry. But it's important to note with the Elmeron stuff, you know, you guys have to understand that drug companies are in the business of making money. I mean, they really are. And as much as we would like to say that they have good intentions, and yeah, I do believe that they do, that there are people who have good intentions, sometimes the quest for money blocks the good intentions. And if you watch all those commercials on TV talking about new meds, you get the super fast voice afterwards saying, with all the scary stuff. And it's not like they're just sitting here honestly saying, if you take this med, you can have an aortic aneurysm. They're going to say it really fast, triple time, because they don't really want you to understand that there are risks associated with that medication. And the Emory Eye Center found in the first 4-year clinical trial with Elmeron other eye issues. There were 3 other side effects reported by IC patients as eye complications, including retinal hemorrhaging. And I forget the other 2. It's in the blog. And I had never seen those. I don't know how I missed those, but I don't think I ever saw that research study, because up to this point, nobody had ever discussed eye function and Elmeron. I mean, and I try to do my best reading as much as I can. And I was gobsmacked by that, stunned. And I was stunned that they found a clinical trial that found other eye issues. I had not seen that before. Sophie, what are the things that would help coat the bladder like Elmeron? Cystoprotect, Cystorenew, or Desert Harvest Aloe are considered the mucosal barriers. Sophie says her eye doctor found something growing toward your retinas. Yeah. Hi, Erin. Cystoprotect does not contain aloe. Cystoprotect does not contain aloe. So if you are aloe intolerant, you cannot take Cystorenew or Desert Harvest Aloe, but Cystoprotect you should be able to take. I will tell you, we are now working on a new supplement line that I'm very excited about, and it too does not contain the core bladder coating does not contain any aloe, and I hope I will have more for that. You're welcome. Erin says thank you for her emergency bathroom card and diet card. Guys, if you would like to have a free diet card and restroom access card, all you need to do is send me your email. Send me your snail mail, your U.S. mail, and I am more than happy to send them to you. All right, it is time for our last freebie of the night. Our last freebie is this bottle of Multirite. Low acid multivitamin. It is the only low acid multivitamin on the market. Now, I take that back. There's one other one now that started doing it based upon what we did. This was my idea. It was funny. I was on the phone with the CEO of Far Labs and years ago. And he said, if you could make anything for an IC patient, what would you make? And I went, I know exactly what I'd make. I'd make a low acid vitamin. Because if there's one question I get over and over and over again is there an IC-friendly vitamin? And my answer for 20 years was no. And he called me back 6 months later, and by golly, he took me seriously. And they made a low-acid multivitamin. And so that's what this is. And so let me write down a number. I will tell you that, again, we're working on some new projects, so there will be more in the future. That's all I can say right now. All right, I'm going to think about a number. What is my number? All right, so hold on. Don't do it yet, because I got to look at my other browser. Hold on. All right. Pick a number between 1 and 100, my friends. Pick a number between 1 and 100. We'll do it for a minute or two, and whoever hits that number is going to get a free bottle of Multi-Right. Not yet. Keep going. Oh, looks like YouTube has shut down on its own. Keep going. Oh, somebody's close. Yes, you can guess more than once. You can absolutely guess more than once. Yes, Sophie Freeman. Sophie Freeman. Sophie Freeman guessed 55. 55. Sophie Freeman, you get a bottle of Multi-Right. Alrighty here. Oops. Hold on. I'm going to shut that down. All right. Okay. All right. Sophie Freeman, I need you to send me a message on Facebook with your mailing address, and I will send you this. Alrighty. All right. So how long have we been doing this? We've been doing this, holy crap, for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Yeah, I was going to go see the Robert Redford movie at 3:30. Yeah, in 10 minutes. That's not going to happen. All right. So listen, last call for questions. I always end these meetings with 2 things. Number one, please, if these are helpful at all, we need you to become members of the IC Network. You can get our magazine for $25 a year by email, $50 a year by snail mail, or you can do $100. You will have your own member page. You will be able to download all sorts of other good things depending upon your membership. There are lots of articles in here that we do not put online for 3 to 6 months, if not longer. This was our summer issue. The most important one in here is Inside AUA 2018, where we review in depth the IC class that was taught to doctors, urologists, international urologists 4 months ago. Our fall one should be done. It's at the typesetter right now. Hopefully it'll be out the first week of December. So please become a member of the IC Network. You can just go over to our website, ic-network.com, and just click on the magazine. You'll see a link right on the front page. Or you can go into our shop and click on memberships there. Alrighty. But far more important than that, if there's one thing you think you remember from this conversation, from this meeting, especially during the holiday season, especially during the next 6 weeks, is IC is not your fault. You have done nothing wrong. There is no shame. There is no blame. I don't want you to let anyone shame you because you cannot eat their food. I do not want anyone to shame you because you are in too much pain. and cannot do something. You are hurt. You are no different than someone who is hit by a car. If you had a family member who was hurt, you would rush to their side and help them. You would take them to doctor's offices. You would take them to the hospital. You would bring them home. You would love on them as much as you could. Well, guess what? You deserve that exact same love and attention, especially during the holidays. I want you to be kind to yourself. I want you to be loving to yourself. I want you to be firm. I want you to educate. I want you to inform. If somebody asks you to bring cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving and it's a 2-hour drive, you're going to say, you know, I'm sorry, I won't know until that day because I do have a pelvic injury. There is a chance I may not be able to get there because it will hurt too much. If I can get there, I will bring cranberry for everyone else, but I will not be able to eat it myself. I will bring something for myself. You know, Aaron, did you guess 55 first? Did I miss that? Aaron, if I missed that, I apologize. You send me an email. I will send you one too. Okay. I'll go back and look, but oh, Sophie, don't put it here. You need to text it to me. I mean, you need to email it to me. Hun, I'm going to delete that right now. I'm hiding that comment and I'm deleting it right now. Nobody should have your address. So I've just deleted that out of the system. Sophie, I need you to whisper it to me or email it to me. Okay. Okay. So now getting back to the holidays, I don't want anybody to guilt you into doing anything you don't want to do. If you're hurting that day, you have the opportunity to stay home. I would encourage you to bring Christmas to your house. Bring the holidays to your house. I mean, listen, seriously, even in my family now, we're so big. I'm home with my elderly parents. Is my whole family going to be here for Christmas? No. Is that sad? Yeah, because this could be my parents' last holiday. And I hope that my other family members remember that. I hope that they will come here. But if they don't come here, enough said. You know what? It's their loss. I'm going to have a nice, lovely Christmas at home where I don't have to travel far or drive a 96-year-old where I know that will be uncomfortable him. Okay. Leanne asks, is IC a disability? IC is not considered a formal disability by the Social Security Administration. However, they have written numerous judgments on it. And the answer is it can be used to qualify. It's just not an automatic approval, but we have hundreds, if not thousands of patients who have gotten disability successfully because of their IC. We have a disability resource section on our website at ic-network.com. I also, we have in our fall newsletter, our fall magazine, the IC Optimist, we have a whole big story on disability, sharing a lot of success stories and tips on how to apply for disability. So that's yet another reason to subscribe to our magazine. Sue, is there any correlation between burning mouth and IC? So I'm assuming that burning mouth is probably related to Sjogren's syndrome or Zika. And Sjogren's syndrome or Zika, dry mouth is one of the common symptoms. I have Zika, dry mouth, dry eyes, although my dominant issue really is dry eyes, dry lips, which is why I use my chapstick when I'm doing these. But I would have to wonder also if we've got some chemical irritation going on, if we've got some biome issues going on. But I'm not an expert at burning mouth at all. We don't see that discussed often. However, we do have a strong group of patients who have Sjogren's, Zika, and I am one of them. Sophie says, I was told IC is a disability. IC can lead to disability. It is not an automatic disability approval with the Social Security Administration. Lark says, I'm a champion member. It's so wonderful having hard copies of our magazines. Thank you. All right. So if I screwed up that, and if somebody else said 55 first and I missed it, Aaron Glidden, I'm talking to you. You're getting a bottle of multi-right too, because I screwed up. Now I'm perfectly willing to own it. So Aaron, I'm writing you down too. So Aaron, I need you to text me or send me a message with your mailing info, and I will send you one too, hon. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Sarah, if you can call me, if you wanted to talk more, just call me at 1-800-928-7496. Not today, next week. But Karen Carden, are you still in here, hun? Melissa asks, is IC and painful bladder the same? Yes. Yes, it is. It's just a migration. We call it nomenclature. It's a nomenclature for IC has changed over time. And so it started out as tic douloureux of the bladder in the 1800s. And then it was called Hunner's lesions and interstitial cystitis. And then it was the Europeans who started using painful bladder syndrome to distinguish between Hunner's lesion patients and non-Hunner's lesion patients. So we did IC painful bladder syndrome about 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And then the Europeans then said, no, the organ should be first. So they then called bladder pain syndrome instead of painful bladder syndrome. So if you're in Europe, you would be diagnosed with interstitial cystitis if you have Hunner's lesions. If you don't have Hunner's lesions, but you have all the other symptoms, you would be diagnosed with bladder pain syndrome. If you're in Asia, you would be diagnosed with Hunner's lesions, or they call it hypersensitive bladder syndrome. In the United States, it is called, that we just mix it all up. We do IC/BPS. Although we are probably moving in the European direction, we're very reluctant to do that because insurance companies, I know interstitial cystitis as a disease, and the concern is that if we stopped using it, they would go back to patients and say, well, IC isn't real, therefore you're not entitled to disability. So the United States medical system is built around the term interstitial cystitis, so we're going to keep using that. Leanne says, Elmeron makes her sick. Anyone else? Leanne, nausea is very common with Elmeron, which means you probably need to move on. Aaron says, we're honestly the strongest people I know. Hey, man, isn't that the truth? The phone number is 1-800-928-7496. 1-800-928-7496. All right. Your homework. You have homework. This is your homework from me. Sometime in the next, and hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. Hold on. Hi, this is Jill. Oh, hi, hon. I can't talk to you right now. I have to call you back, okay? Thanks. All right. Okay, so here is your homework. Homework number 1 is find another IC patient and do something for them, please. I don't mean sending them money. I don't believe in sending money. Don't send anybody money. Do something for them. Now, if you want to give them a book, fine. But we have had scammers in the IC world claim to have IC. We used to have an IC Angel Thanksgiving program. We did that for 15 years where we sent low-income patients money. And at Christmas, we sent them gifts and all sorts of stuff like that. And the reason why it was shut down is because we caught a lot of scammers who were abusing the system. So instead, I need you guys to be our hands and eyes and ears. And if you see an IC patient who needs a little bit of help, even if it's just a hug, would you please give it to them? For everything you do to them, for them, it will help you tenfold. I firmly believe that. Your other homework is every day, I need you to do 3 things. I need you to spend 15 minutes on your spirit and your soul. I need you to do something that will give you comfort spiritually or soul. And I'm not talking, I'm not telling you to go to church. I'm just saying, do something that gives you comfort, whether it is going and taking a walk among redwood trees, which I happen to think is remarkably nurturing, or if you want to go to church, go to church. If you want to listen to a lecture, if you want to meditate, whatever. Do something every day that gives you comfort, because you deserve comfort, because you've never been working as hard as you are right now. Life is hard with IC, and it's hard when you have to be your own advocate when you're feeling terrible, right? And so you deserve some rewards. So let's give you some rewards. So 15 minutes on your spirit. For me, that's turning Sirius channel 128, listening to Joel Osteen on the way to the supermarket. Works every time. I can't begin to tell you how good it is. For 15 minutes, I need you to do something for your bladder and your pelvis. I don't care what it is. I'm not looking for big, giant things. I'm talking about little things that over time will build and get you into a better place. So either following the IC diet, saying no when you drive by Starbucks, as I do almost every day, or trying a supplement, or grabbing a heating pad, or laying down, just do something for your body. Please drink some water. Come on, drink some water. That's good. Just say no to the whatever else you're drinking and drink your water. Your human body is designed to live on water, not distilled water, spring water. And then lastly, I need you to do something to build your brain, because IC does not turn your intelligence off. And man, I got to tell you, it's stunning to me the number of people who call who don't know their body. It's stunning to people. They don't know where their urethra is. They don't know the difference between their vulva or their vagina. And even more so, the people who, and I have to chuckle about it only because it's just my way of expressing my frustration. The people who say, I have pain down there. It's like, well, where? Can you tell me where it is? No, it's down there. And I went, no, that's not good enough. Where is your pain? In my bladder? It's like, well, okay. And then I have to walk them through it. Okay, is your pain inside your body or outside your body? And they go, oh, never thought of that. And then they'll go, it's outside. And I go, okay, then that's not your bladder. So where is it outside? They go, well, down there. And I went, well, no. Put your finger on it. Go wash your hands. Put your finger on it and tell me, what are you touching? And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, honey, come on. If not you, who? Seriously, get a mirror, drop your pants, squat over the mirror and look at your body. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a gift from God, and it's hysterical. I mean, it's hysterical I get them laughing with me every single time. I can make it really funny. But again, getting back to you every day, I need you to build your knowledge here. I want you to come read our website. Just read one article a day, read one blog a day. Look at the picture, don't shy away from the picture, for God's sake. Look at it. I want you to look at that picture. Look at that. Here's the muscles. It's so cool. Look, there's your vagina. There's your urethra. Your ability and knowledge of your body is going to greatly influence how well you work with your doctors. I can promise you, if you walk in and you say, I have pain down there, they're going to go, holy crap. Who is this woman or man? And for men, I need you to be specific. Where does it hurt? Does it hurt in the shaft? Does it hurt at the tip of your penis? Does it hurt in your prostate? Does it hurt in your testicles? Does it hurt in your bladder? All right. So if you don't know how the body works, I need you to learn how the body works. It will only serve you in the long run. All righty. I have some funny stories I could share with you guys. I really do have some funny stories. Aaron, do I think people can heal their bladders? Well, you're asking the wrong question. The question is, do I believe that the bladder can heal? Hell yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Healing never turns off. That is the miracle of the human body, is it is designed to repair itself. If you fell and skinned your knee, you've had a scab on it tomorrow. That is living proof that the healing process is alive and well. The challenge with the bladder is similar to the stomach. You know, your stomach has stomach acid. So when you have a wound in your stomach, it takes a long time for that wound to heal because it's being irritated by stomach acid. And the same is true in the bladder. It takes a long time for a bladder injury to heal because you've got urine in it irritating that wound, right? And so it's like, so in the end, your normal bladder repair mechanism should be able to, and would normally be able to defeat any influence that urine would have on a wound in your bladder. However, you have to make sure that you're not getting in the way of healing. So again, look at this picture, right? So here's this picture. So here is an injured bladder, urine getting into this bladder, right? Now, how much worse do you think this would be if you were drinking coffee or a soda a day, or if you were smoking? All of those irritants end up going into this wound. And if you pour acid on a wound every day, is that wound going to heal? And the answer is no, because you are interfering with healing. You are interfering. It looks like a bug's face. You are interfering with healing if you are continuing to drink coffee and soda and other things that are irritating. You have to remember that the human body was designed for life tens of thousands of years ago. Our daily lives are filled with toxins like we've never seen before. And those toxins are doing great damage to our human body as well as to our ecosystem. And so your job is to create an environment that will support healing. And that means losing the junk food, losing the acidic food, losing the regular multivitamins, which again, 5,000 years ago, we didn't have. You remember that your urine is a stew of all the chemical byproducts that you've eaten and your body is getting rid of. If you're a smoker, I was working with a patient maybe 2 weeks ago who she was doing everything right, except she was smoking, massively smoking. And you know, my friend Diane, who helped me start the IC network, Diane Manhattan Lopresti, who tragically was murdered years ago, and she overlooks everything I do. She is one of my angels for sure. That was something that she and I really struggled with, is we got her diet good, but that nicotine habit was really rough. And there was an article yesterday, no, might have been today, about kids who are vaping with, God, it was a small word, a specific vaping device where they were getting massive amounts of nicotine, and they were creating massive nicotine addictions. But it wasn't just a nicotine addiction. You got to remember that all those chemical byproducts from smoking and vaping end up right here. And that is why smoking is the #1 cause of bladder cancer. So, man, seriously, do not get in the way of healing. We got to clean up our diets. We got to clean up the chemicals in our home. Stop drinking all this crazy stuff and drink water. That's how your body's meant to survive, is water. All right, my friends. Last call for questions. Last call for questions. Any more questions? I like doing these. It's fun. All right. I guess we're going to call it right here. I wish you well. Sleep well, everybody. I wish you the best. Our regular meetings are the first and third Sundays. This was a regular meeting. I will be doing drop-in meetings, and I am going to be doing a drop-in meeting probably next week. I'm not sure if it's before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving. I want to see how people are doing. And then we'll be doing a few meetings through December too, because I know it's a hard time and I want to give you support. All right. All right, everybody. See you later, alligator. Or as my nephew would say, in a while, crocodile. Or see you soon, baboon. See ya. Marie, literally, as I was saying goodbye, asked a question. Baking soda with water every day. Do not do that. Do not drink alkaline water all day. That defeats the purpose. All right. If you want to do 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda in a glass of water once a day, once every other day, I don't have a problem with that. But drinking alkaline water all day, every day is a mistake. All righty? Okay. See you later. All right, my friends on YouTube. I disconnected. The chat disconnected. No idea why. I don't know if you're still watching or not, but if you are, see you later.